Earth had collapsed as abruptly as a game server shutting down, and with it, all life began to fade away. In that spiraling chaos, an unnamed omnipotent being offered a single solution: extra-dimensional deployment. The heroes who abandoned the dying Earth and stepped into other worlds came to be known as the Vanguards. The life force they brought back was the only thing keeping the remnants of humanity alive. Among these people was a young man, this story's protagonist, named Chansu. His father had once been one of the highest-ranked Vanguards. Yet when Earth's condition worsened beyond repair, he left for another world once more. And never returned. Unwilling to resign herself to life alone, Chansu's mother set out to search for her husband, only to vanish as well. Chansu grew up an orphan, his memories of his parents blurring with time until even their faces became indistinct silhouettes in his mind. He longed to become a vanguard so he could one day cross into another world and find them, but every attempt he made ended in failure. Now, Chansu scraped by with simple day labor whoever called, he worked for. But his heart drifted toward distant worlds he had never seen. He was so entranced by Vanguard broadcasts that he even watched them during work hours. Why are not you working? What are you standing around for? Young people these days are always lost in pointless fantasies. His employer's scolding snapped him back to reality, and Chansu bowed deeply, eyes full of apology. He rushed off to clear the tangled vines blocking the path. It was his first day on the job, and he had already been reprimanded. Anxiety coiled inside him, regret for being careless, fear of getting fired. With a series of clean, practiced motions, hands cutting left, right, up, and down, Chansu dealt with the vines swiftly and precisely. The bot stared, stunned, mouth agape at the boy's uncanny skill. In moments, the mess was gone without a trace. Chansu exhaled in relief, though his expression stayed somber. For him, the other world still felt like a distant, unreachable dream. He looked around, then lowered his gaze to the sickle in his hand. A fleeting thought crossed his mind. Could he ever become someone like that? Shaking off the doubt, Chansu headed straight for the deployment support center. After squeezing through the packed crowd for what felt like an eternity, he finally reached the service desk. I wanted to check if there has been any progress on the search. The staff member typed without looking up. After a moment, a stark message appeared on the screen. The search deposit for locating his family was still insufficient. Chansu froze as the employee delivered the blunt follow-up. Chansu, this is not a charity. Come back when you have gathered the full amount. Before he could respond, a bald man nudged him aside, sending him stumbling away with a mix of fatigue and disappointment. He trudged home, each step heavier than the last. And as always, the moment he walked inside, despite living alone, he called out, "I am home." In the dim room, Chansu sat quietly, letting old memories rise and fall. Faces he could no longer recall clearly, moments that felt more like dreams than reality. Sadness surged like a rising tide. But suddenly, a radiant light flashed through the window. He rushed to open the door and a blinding beam burst down from the sky, brilliant and overwhelming. The sheer pressure slammed Chansu backward, his head cracking against the wall. He blacked out instantly, unable to process what was happening. A short while later, he stirred, wincing as pain throbbed through his skull. Inwardly, he cursed, utterly dazed. What the hell just happened? My head feels like it is about to explode. At 8 of the clock sharp, an emergency alert flashed across the screen. An S-ranked vanguard had retired. Chansu froze, heart pounding. On his phone, a trembling voice began to speak, a man whose body was ravaged by injuries, forcing out what sounded like his final words. In the end, because I could not protect the deity, every vanguard who accompanied me was killed. I was forced to return alone. Now, I have lost all my strength. I can no longer undertake another deployment. After much deliberation, I have decided to retire. Please. I entrust Earth to all of you. Do not lose your courage. The announcement instantly became the center of global attention. The press conference turned into breaking news that shook the entire world. Chansu stared silently at the screen, his chest tightening. As if failing the mission was not enough, now retirement too. Before he could sort through the tangle of thoughts in his head, a sudden knock echoed from outside. Knock, 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 cutting through the turmoil. Chansu frowned, stood up, and walked toward the door. Who would come looking for him at this hour? When he cracked the door open, no one was there, only the empty, quiet hallway and a chilly draft slipping through. A flicker of suspicion crossed his mind. Was someone messing with him? Mr. Chansu, Mr. Chansu, down here. A small, clear voice called out from below. Startled, Chansu looked down. There, at his feet, sat a rabbit, a plump little rabbit with upright ears, a snow-white coat, and an iPad clutched tightly in its paws. It gazed up at him, its mouth quivering as it spoke. You are Chansu, right? This is your place, is not it, Mr. Chansu? The absurdity of the scene hit him so hard he collapsed straight onto the floor, nearly fainting. Only one thought echoed through his mind: I am dreaming. This has to be a dream. But the chubby rabbit did not care about his shock in the slightest. It tapped frantically on the glowing iPad while continuing to chatter. You are Chansu, right? Calm down, just listen to me. I have incredible news for you. Congratulations. Its round eyes curved with excitement, its tone bright and cheerful, as if announcing a lottery jackpot. You have officially become a vanguard. Chansu blinked in confusion, his voice shaking as he stammered, What? What did you just say? The chubby rabbit nodded sagely, its long ears bobbing in rhythm with its gentle tone. I understand. You must be overwhelmed right now. Then it reached into its little jacket, rummaged for a moment, and pulled out a gleaming card, holding it up proudly in front of Chansu. But the truth is exactly what I said. You, Chansu, are the chosen one. If you still do not believe me, why do not we go somewhere else and talk? Before Chansu could even gather his thoughts, the chubby rabbit grabbed him and dragged him along. As it hopped down the hallway, it peppered him with cheerful questions. Oh, by the way, do you have any special talents? Embarrassed, Chansu scratched his head. I grew up poor, so all I am good at is cutting grass and picking flowers. Maybe catching a butterfly here and there. The rabbit stopped so abruptly it nearly skidded across the floor. Its ears shot straight up, its mouth dropped open, and its eyes bulged like they were about to pop out. What did you just say? It took several seconds before it managed to pull itself together. No problem. No problem at all. I am sure there is a reason for everything. You are still the chosen one, Mr. Chansu. So do not worry. Chansu scratched his head again, offering an awkward smile and a quiet thank you, though excitement churned uneasily in his chest. Never in his life had he imagined he would set foot inside a deployment center. At long last, his chance had come. A man and a rabbit stood before a massive, imposing door. Chansu inhaled deeply, grabbed the handle, and pulled with all his strength. Then he tried again. And again. The door did not budge. The chubby rabbit stared at him like he would lost his mind. What are you doing? The entrance is over here. When Chansu turned, his entire body went rigid, his lips twitching. This is the entrance, are you blind? That door is tiny, how is anyone supposed to fit through that? The rabbit blinked innocently. But I can fit. Defeated, Chansu sighed and turned away. Forget it. I am going home. I knew it, I am being pranked. Behind him, the rabbit's voice echoed. Are you sure? You have already failed multiple times. You do not meet the transmission qualifications. Do you really think you will get another chance? Chansu's steps faltered. The rabbit quickly continued, its tone suddenly urgent. Do not misunderstand. It is just. It would be a shame if you walked away now. He frowned, hesitated for a few seconds, then driven by instinct or desperation turned back and followed the strange rabbit. Getting through the tiny door was another matter entirely. He had to crouch, twist, squeeze, and contort himself so awkwardly that his face scrunched up like he would just bitten into a chili pepper. In his imagination, the doorway to a deployment center should have been grand, holy, majestic, bathed in radiant light. But the moment he poked his head through the opening, a bright glow washed over him, and he found himself staring in disbelief. Inside was a clean, well-lit room that looked exactly like a normal government office. The chubby rabbit spun around with a beaming grin. There is a world that suits you perfectly. Chansu widened his eyes. Everyone has a world that suits them. The rabbit lifted the shiny card again, waving it like a magician presenting a trick. Of course. This belongs to the Cube world system. It is called Territory Conquest. Cube. World, Chansu blurted out, startled. Seeing his reaction, the rabbit assumed he knew exactly what it meant, only to receive the most honest reply possible. I do not know what that is. The rabbit froze, mentally cursing him out. acting like he knew anything at all. After muttering to itself for a bit, it turned back to Chansu with a bright, innocent smile, as if nothing had happened. Haha, so you really do not know. Well, that world's been a hot topic lately. Its biggest feature is the presence of divine blessings. The moment the word divine was mentioned, Chansu immediately thought of the devastating news report earlier that day. That injured man had been a devout follower of a deity just before everything fell apart. A faint unease stirred in Chansu's chest. Sensing it instantly, as if reading his thoughts, Fat Rabbit waved a paw dismissively. Relax, the gods in this world are nothing like that recent disaster. Chansu frowned. So which god is it? The rabbit's tone turned more serious than usual. By rule, the assignment of gods is random, it said, but then its eyes flashed strangely, its ears pricked upright, and its voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper that made the air feel electric. If you decide right now, you will get the privilege of choosing. With that, it produced a neat stack of cards, its gaze shining like a temptress showing off a treasure. It offered the cards to Chansu. What do you mean my choice? Chansu's eyes widened. He had no idea how to choose. He stared at the 3 cards, his hand trembling slightly. Seeing him hesitate, the rabbit tilted its head and softened its pitch into honeyed coaxing. Chansu, this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. What are you waiting for? Vague childhood memories rose up his father's expectant eyes, his mother's departing silhouette, along with the lifelong dream of becoming a vanguard to find his family. A bell seemed to toll inside his head. Miss this, and who knew when another chance would come? Why stall like a fool, he told himself. He drew a deep breath and reached out. All right. I choose. He gripped one of the 3 cards and flipped it over with a trembling hand. Suddenly, whoom, a burst of black light erupted, and skeletal white figures whirled and tumbled like restless spirits in the air. Words formed on the card in a cold, clinical font: illegitimate lineage 44%. Chansu collapsed to the floor, his face draining of color. The rabbit peered down and gave a soft, amused chuckle as if nothing dire had happened. Oh, come on, that was just the introduction. Why the dramatics? Chansu's hands shook as he clutched the card. What kind of god has an intro like a seance? Just the name alone sounds ominous. Illegitimate lineage. And there is a percentage. How is any of that good? He scratched his head, voice wavering. Can I draw again? The rabbit smiled broadly, as if it had anticipated the question. Sure, draw as many times as you like. But each pull produced the same result. This time the card announced coldly, illegitimate lineage 45%. Rage flared in Chansu. He jabbed a finger at the card and shouted, this is a scam. Why do I keep pulling gods like this? The atmosphere dropped heavy in an instant. The rabbit's usual sunny grin vanished, replaced by a grave tone that pressed on him like a weight. You are mistaken, the cards are not flawed. Understand, its words carried an authority that shut him up. Chansu stammered, startled. I did not mean to imply the cards were broken. The rabbit narrowed its eyes. Each syllable it spoke now snapped like a command. This is the last time. Choose carefully. Cold sweat trickled down Chansu's palms. He muttered a prayer under his breath. Please, not that god again. Please. Finally, he pulled a card. Boom! A blue light flared, pure and different from the earlier displays. Chansu stared, eyes wide and shining with a fragile hope. The card read, Goddess of Prosperity 0.001%. For a second he was frozen, then he bit his lip until it trembled. The effect might be weak, he thought, but the odds this had to be an ultra-rare draw. He pictured a beautiful, beguiling goddess in his mind, and a foolish little drool of fantasy slipped from the corner of his mouth. The rabbit beside him darkened, perplexed by the lecherous gleam in his eyes. But the mood shifted in a heartbeat. It burst into a radiant grin, its ears flicking with more excitement than Chansu himself. Chansu, do you want another shot? Chansu frowned suspiciously. What happens if I pick this card? The rabbit answered crisply, immediate departure. Departure. Before he fully registered the meaning, the rabbit's voice winked with enchantment. What are you waiting for? This is your chance to become a vanguard, to join the ranks of the returned. People will admire you, they will call you a savior. Think about it, Chansu, a whole new life is waiting for you. Chansu lowered his gaze, fingers curling into a tight fist. Yeah. If he kept living like this, he would be stuck running errands forever, slowly grinding himself down until there was nothing left. At that exact moment, a notification window flared open before his eyes. Congratulations. From this moment on, you are a follower of the goddess of prosperity. Your deity is about to manifest. The sound faded and then the world ignited. A radiant silhouette materialized, hazy yet divine, a dignified goddess, resplendent like a figure carved from pure jade. Chansu's heart thundered in his chest. Another notification bloomed before him. Welcome, future Vanguard candidate. But the vision vanished as quickly as it came, dissolving into strands of light. Silence reclaimed the world. Chansu remained frozen, mouth slightly open. Was that really the goddess of prosperity? A moment passed before the corners of his lips slowly lifted. With a goddess like that behind him, it felt like he could do anything. All right. Where do I go now? He asked, excitement trembling in his voice. Fat Rabbit led him toward a swirling vortex of violet light, its spiraling mass yawning open like the throat of an abyss. Chansu halted instantly. He stared at the vortex, anxiety clawing up his spine, feet glued to the ground. This thing did not look safe. He hesitated so long he could not bring himself to take a single step. Fat Rabbit sighed behind him, then pop. A small but perfectly placed kick struck the center of his back. You rotten rabbit, Chansu screamed as he was sucked straight into the vortex. The light swallowed him whole. Above, Fat Rabbit remained where it stood, watching. A cold voice echoed from behind. Why did you do that? Fat Rabbit did not turn around, eyes still fixed on the swirling portal. You know very well direct intervention is forbidden. The voice sharpened, carrying an edge like a blade. I told you not to let this one slip. You still have not given up on your own god, have you? Fat Rabbit's ears drooped, its lips tensed. Of course not. Meanwhile, Chansu was suspended inside the vortex, weightless in the spinning void, when a new notification popped up. Loading, 78%. He blinked. Huh, loading what? Another line appeared. A deity's percentage represents the power of their faction. A bucket of ice water might as well have been dumped over his head. What? It is not a rarity score, it is the measure of how strong they are. He did not even have time to process before the vortex spat him out, slamming him onto a barren stretch of land. Chansu clutched his head, teeth grinding. Now you tell me. He lifted his gaze. The world around him was bleak, trees stripped bare, crumbling structures, cracked earth, sparse patches of brittle weeds, not a single soul in sight. He let out a laugh so strained it almost sounded like sobbing. Ha! Ha! Damn it! I am dead for sure. Chansu glared at the desolate wasteland around him, then tilted his head back and groaned. This is the goddess of prosperity's world. Seriously, what part of this rubble pile and dead grass is supposed to be prosperous? He did not even get the chance to complain further before a crisp chime sounded behind him. A glowing notification window flickered to life, each line of text appearing sharp and bright. Welcome to the cube world of territorial conquest. Oh, Chansu, you are the apostle of prosperity. Please conquer as much territory as possible. By eating land. Chansu squinted at the message. Do not tell me the place looks like this because the faction is weak. And what is with that typo? Do not tell me I really got sent to the bootleg version. Not wanting to stand around like an idiot in the middle of this wasteland, he decided to walk around scouting the place and hoping, just maybe, to catch a glimpse of the goddess. After wandering for a while, he stopped. At his feet, half buried in withered weeds, lay an old sickle, rusty, abandoned, forgotten. Chansu crouched down and picked it up, his hand tightening around the handle. A strange, familiar warmth stirred inside him. At least this was something he knew how to use. Right then, click. A faint sound came from behind him. Every hair on his body stood on end, a chill raced down his spine. Did I just hear a monster? He whispered, throat dry. Gripping the sickle tighter, he psyched himself up. He could not die a pathetic death here, not before he even met his goddess. With the resolve of a desperate man, he raised the sickle, ready to strike first and fast. But just as the blade gleamed, he froze. Standing opposite him was not some terrifying creature, but a tiny hamster. A perfectly round, trembling, quivering little puffball whose eyes were glistening with tears as if pleading for mercy. Chansu stared blankly. This thing counts as a monster, it does not even look aggressive. Still, he forced himself to think of a reasonable excuse. Well, monsters drop loot, right? Maybe if I catch it. Before he could finish the thought, the hamster puffed up like a spiky ball, tears spilling over as it flailed its tiny paws in a frantic "please do not kill me" panic. Chansu could not help but snort out a laugh. All right. I am joking. Just do not bring your whole family here and we are fine. Besides, looking closer, you are actually pretty cute. The hamster immediately relaxed, let out a tiny sigh of relief, and hopped onto the ground, scampering away. Chansu blinked. Wait, just leaving like that? He had barely begun to grumble when the hamster suddenly stopped, turned around, and looked back at him with two bright, shiny eyes. It let out two sharp squeaks, like it was calling him. Chansu pointed at himself. You want me to follow you? The hamster bolted forward like a speeding bullet. Chansu sprinted after it, gasping for air, drenched in sweat. How can something that tiny run that fast? Where is it even going? After a long, exhausting chase, they finally stopped. The sight before them made the hamster practically vibrate with joy, like it had discovered paradise. As for Chansu, his eyes went wide. A small, crystal-clear stream trickled between the bleak stretches of wasteland, its water sparkling under the faint light. Not wasting a second, he grabbed his bottle and dipped it into the stream. He gulped down the water in huge swallows, cold, refreshing, life-saving. It spread through his body like he would just climbed out of hell into heaven. The hamster, not to be outdone, plunged its whole face into the stream, drinking so much that its belly ballooned outward. Chansu sat down on the patch of grass nearby, letting out a satisfied sigh. He glanced at the hamster. Hey, little guy, do you actually live here? This place does not look like somewhere a hamster should be living in. Do you know where the goddess is? The goddess of prosperity. The hamster could not care less. It plopped down and meticulously groomed its fur, shaking its tiny ears with complete disinterest in his questions. Chansu watched for a moment, then muttered under his breath, "Yep. Talking to you is definitely going to be a challenge." The little hamster suddenly let out a frantic series of squeaks, its tiny front paws pointing repeatedly in one direction. Chansu arched a brow. You want me to follow you again? With no better option, he trudged after it. After a long walk, he found himself standing before a massive tree. But instead of looking majestic and full of life, the tree was dying, its leaves yellow and falling in heaps, its branches shriveled and brittle. Only its enormous trunk remained, towering like some ancient ruin. Chansu could not help muttering, "Big tree, sure. But it looks just as wilted as everything back on Earth." He reached out to touch it, then crack. Startled, he looked down. Under his foot was some sort of root. Something that looked suspiciously like a ginseng root, complete with a clear imprint of his shoe pressed across it. Is this ginseng? He barely had time to process the thought before the hamster burst into loud, heart-wrenching sobs. It squeaked a long, despairing cry and hurled itself toward the crushed root, hugging it as if it were a beloved relative who had just met a tragic end. Chansu rubbed the back of his neck, mortified. Sorry, was this your cousin? Right then, the cold voice from a system window chimed in again. You have discovered the deity of this region. The notification hovered before him. Chansu stared at it, dumbfounded. Wait, what? I discovered the goddess. Where is she? Suddenly, the hamster, still crying, leapt at him and bit into his pant leg, tugging with desperate force. He scooped it up without thinking, but the hamster thrashed wildly in his hands, eyes bloodshot with fury. I am busy right now. Okay, I will play with you later, Chansu said. The hamster panicked, immediately pointing toward the ginseng root. Then it pressed its little paws together over its chest, striking a solemn pose like some divine being at prayer. In the next second, all four of its limbs shot stiff. Its body jerked, its face turned purple, and it collapsed lifelessly on the spot. Chansu froze. He watched every exaggerated movement, and his complexion drained of color. Slowly, trembling, his gaze dropped to the shriveled ginseng root lying on the ground, the same one with his footprint stamped into it. His voice cracked. Do not tell me. That withered root was the deity. There it lay abandoned, its dull surface bruised by the tread of his shoe. A few dry leaves scattered around it like a pitiful funeral offering. Chansu stared at it, face growing paler by the second, lips twitching uncontrollably. No way. My goddess of prosperity, there is no way she is a dried-up ginseng root. Right then, the root flickered just barely with a faint green glow. A thunderclap seemed to explode inside his mind. His heart pounded wildly. That green light. What is that? It has to be a mistake. It must be a mistake. But no matter how he looked at it, it was just a ginseng root. His mind flashed back to the graceful, radiant figure of the prosperity goddess he would seen before, divine, resplendent, overflowing with blessing. Compared to that image, this dried weed on the ground was not even in the same universe. Chansu squinted through the magnifying lens on the notification window. And at the bottom of the illustration, in small print, were the words, "Image for reference only." In that instant, his world collapsed. He fell to his knees beside the ginseng root, clutching his head, looking utterly shattered. So all the territory capture numbers, all those percentage values. They had been hints the whole time. Thinking back, the percentage had ticked upward ever since he drew the card. He would naively assumed it was a display glitch. But the truth was tied to his territory expanding. The root and the goddess were weakening because his domain had shrunk. The more he remembered, the more violently he trembled. That card had been appearing so often that he would never imagined it was anything special. He looked again at the prosperity goddess's percentage gauge. And suddenly, everything made sense. She ended up like this because her territory had diminished. A cold jolt shot down his spine. The goddess crushed under his foot still had not woken up. No way. No way, I just killed a deity by accident, right? Panic exploded inside him. Frantic, he dug into his bag and pulled out his only remaining bottle of water, hands shaking so badly he nearly dropped it. He poured the entire contents over the ginseng root. Amazingly, the dried, brittle skin trembled, the brown, lifeless color slowly tinged with a faint hint of freshness, as if the root were drinking in a breath of life. Eyes wide, Chansu poured more water, desperately trying to save whatever divine being he might have trampled. Beside him, the hamster covered its face with its paws, trembling violently. It squeaked a mournful, horrified cry, as though witnessing a catastrophe of cosmic proportions. Chansu, oblivious to the drama, continued watering with frantic enthusiasm. Meanwhile, from the ginseng root came a series of faint, quivering thoughts. So cool. Is this rain? It has been so long since I last drank water. Feels nice. Hold on. This rain is a bit too much. Okay. Enough. Stop. If you keep going, I am going to drown. Seriously, I am going to die again. The ginseng root shuddered, and slowly finally opened a pair of weary eyes. It looked less like a resurrected deity and more like someone who had barely survived drowning. Chansu and the little hamster lit up the moment they saw the root move, their faces brightening as if someone had switched on a light inside them. Placing one hand solemnly over his chest, Chansu bowed a full 45 degrees, his voice reverent. Greetings, my lady. I am O Chansu, apostle of prosperity. When he lifted his eyes to behold his deity, all he saw was a wilted ginseng root lying there listlessly, too exhausted to even twitch. Chansu held out his empty hands, smiling with the kind of expression that was so close to crying it was hard to tell the difference. He looked utterly lost, unsure what to do next. Right then, a system notification window popped up in front of him. Use your skill to become stronger. Chansu swiped through the panel, and a genuine gasp left his chest. So I actually have my own skills. Blessing of Prosperity displayed no description at all, but just the name alone made it obvious, something that boosted harvests, promoted growth, increased abundance. But then, right beneath Blessing of Prosperity, a new line appeared. Beheading. Chansu's eyes bulged. His heart nearly rocketed out of his chest. Beheading. That kind of beheading. Against his will, a grotesque image surfaced in his mind: wealthy men having their heads harvested by a serene goddess, who considered it a form of prosperous living. The thought sent a wave of cold sweat rolling down his forehead. She is the goddess of fertility, why would she give me something so brutal? Hands trembling, he stared at the ginseng root and stammered, My lady, this beheading skill. It does not mean what I think it means, right? The ginseng root remained silent for a moment. Then slowly, very slowly, it raised one crooked branch, tracing it decisively across its neck. The gesture was unmistakable. "My apostle, proceed." Chansu's voice cracked as he pointed at himself, forcing out every word. You mean, you want me to behead something?" The ginseng root folded its twiggy arms and nodded with absolute conviction. Chansu stood frozen, his mind unraveling into a tangled knot. Technically, a goddess of prosperity was tied to agriculture. And agriculture did involve livestock, meat processing, butchering. So in that sense, a beheading skill was not completely ridiculous. Disturbing, yes, but not illogical. As that thought flickered through him, Chansu slowly turned his head. Behind him, the hamster was happily bouncing around, its chubby body wobbling from side to side in pure delight. Completely carefree. Completely unaware. Because from behind, a chilling, murderous gaze had already settled silently upon it. Locking onto it as though marking the next sacrifice. The little hamster shuddered the moment it sensed killing intent. When it turned around, the sight it saw nearly stopped its tiny heart. Chansu was raising his sickle overhead, poised to deliver a rapid, merciless strike. The hamster shrieked a desperate, high-pitched chit, and twisted its small body aside just in time. Tears streamed down its furry cheeks as it bolted toward the ginseng root, hiding behind it with every bit of strength its trembling body could muster. Chansu advanced step by step, shadows swallowing his expression. The hamster clung to the ginseng root, squeaking hysterically, eyes wide with raw terror. But just as Chansu closed the distance, only a single step left, both the hamster and the ginseng root suddenly stiffened. Their horrified gazes were not fixed on him. They were staring past him. A cold wave crawled up Chansu's spine. His instincts screamed. He spun around and came face to face with a massive, blackened foot slamming into the ground. Thick, foul liquid dripped from it in slow, nauseating globs, and a stench so rotten it stabbed straight into his nose. Chansu froze, the sickle trembling in his grip. Behind him, the hamster pressed even tighter against the ginseng root, its watery eyes fixed on the monstrosity. The air seemed to thicken, growing heavy enough to strangle. A hulking silhouette loomed slowly into view, a towering creature that looked like a specter wrapped in a sludge-soaked black shroud. Chansu swallowed hard, fighting the scream rising in his throat. His fingers tightened around the sickle until they shook. The ginseng root and the hamster were curled into a terrified bundle, clutching each other, their eyes glimmering with tears about to spill. Then, suddenly, the little hamster darted forward. It planted its tiny feet in front of the ginseng root, spreading its arms wide, shielding her with its miniature body as if declaring it would stand its ground to the very end. Chansu froze for a heartbeat, something in him snapping into clarity. It is not a monster. I was wrong. His jaw clenched. If that was the case, then the only enemy left was the giant fiend in front of him. Chansu drew a sharp breath, mustering every ounce of courage he had left, and charged. His footsteps thundered across the ground. He narrowed his eyes, scanning for any weakness, and thankfully, the creature's head and neck could still be distinguished through its muddy mass. A system prompt flashed across his vision. You may activate the beheading skill. Once he was close enough, Chansu swung the sickle in a wide arc. The rust-eaten blade suddenly gleamed with impossible sharpness like a sacred weapon forged for slaughter. It sliced clean through the monster's neck. The severed head dissolved instantly, breaking apart into tiny motes of shimmering light before fading into nothing. The body collapsed like a melting sandcastle, sinking into a wet heap that soaked the dirt around it. The hamster and the ginseng root stared in disbelief. Chansu, this half-starved, frantic apostle, had felled the monster in a single decisive strike. He stepped toward them, steadying his breath, and spoke softly. "My lady. Are you all right?" But when his eyes landed on the hamster's tear-streaked face, it was like thunder cracked inside his skull. That little brat. In that split second, it had thrown itself forward to shield the goddess. A flush of shame burned through him. Chansu dropped to his knees and bowed deeply, his voice sincere and breathless. "I am so sorry. I made a huge mistake. Will you forgive me?" The hamster blinked, then glanced at the ginseng root as if seeking permission. It let out a soft, hesitant chit. Only after a long moment did it raise its tiny paw, signaling agreement. Relief washed over Chansu's face. He stood up with a sheepish laugh, rubbing the back of his head. actually thought of a name for you. How about it, since we will be living together from now on, you should have something to be called by." The hamster's eyes sparkled, and it squeaked enthusiastically. Warmth settled momentarily over the scene. And then, a new notification flashed. Due to skill effects, the beheaded target has been automatically converted. Undying Demon Hunt 1 completed. Chansu stiffened, staring at the glowing text. So that thing he fought. It was an undying demon. The system shifted again. The offering will automatically be bound to the goddess. And a new tension rippled through the air. Chansu quickly turned toward the ginseng root, and his eyes lit up at the sight before him. The once withered, shriveled root now gleamed with vitality, its wrinkled skin smoothed out as if rejuvenated, faint streaks of light flowing over its surface. Excitement surged through him. If we keep this up, she will return to her prosperous form in no time. I am going to chop some more, he muttered, and together, the boy and the little hamster dashed off, as if they had just discovered the ultimate leveling strategy. Now that he knew it worked, all that remained was to repeat the process. Climbing the barren hill, Chansu had no trouble spotting monsters similar to the one he had just defeated. Everything here, like the goddess herself, was dry, desolate, and stripped of cover, leaving the creatures in plain view. Just then, a notification flashed before his eyes. Undetermined points exist in this area. The text explained that these points could be used for system world features and could not be traded between players. Chansu blinked, murmuring in confusion, "Points? When did I even get points?" Before he could ponder further, a rustling sounded from behind him, a horde of monsters swaying as they approached. Chansu drew a deep breath, tightening his grip on the sickle, a sly smirk tugging at his lips. Lucky me. This skill is strong and easy to use. The monsters moved slowly. All he had to do was time the sickle's swing through their necks, and their heads were off in a single strike. The familiar sound rang out in his ears, skill activated, beheading. He lunged into the horde. Running back and forth among the monsters, he swung the sickle, continuously decapitating, cleaving, and smashing every target in his path. The notification chimed again: hunt monsters to gain points. Chansu laughed, exhilarated, determined that he would not stop until he had slain 100. The display already showed 4 undying demons defeated. After an exhausting frenzy of slashing, he had taken down 101 monsters and returned victorious. The little hamster puffed out its chest proudly, standing on Chansu's shoulder with its tiny arms akimbo, squeaking triumphantly and mimicking heroic combat moves. Chansu could not help but laugh aloud, teasing, "Everyone would think you did all the work yourself." The hamster immediately swatted at his face with tiny, indignant paws, squeaking furiously. The two of them argued and teased each other, then erupted into laughter, Chansu rubbing the hamster's ears while glancing at the notification. He muttered thoughtfully, "But why call it the Undying Demon Hunt? These things are not immortal ones, Swain, they are gone. Huh. I guess if I keep hunting, I will figure it out eventually." With that, Chansu approached the ginseng root again. His eyes sparkled like a child's. The root now looked as if freshly unearthed, washed clean, its skin smooth and shiny. A tiny flower bud had sprouted on a leaf, waving as though to welcome him. The thought of the goddess of prosperity regaining her full, radiant form brought a mischievous grin to his face. The ginseng root twitched slightly, trembling as if summoning the strength to move. Seeing this, Chansu bent down eagerly, asking respectfully, "What should we do next?" A boy and a ginseng root, standing together beneath the drooping, desolate tree. After a brief silence, the ginseng root raised its small arm and pointed upward, as if to say, "I need to climb the tree." Chansu gently placed the root in his palm and approached the base of the tree. The ginseng extended its roots to touch the withered trunk, then looked back at him intently. "Do I need to touch it too?" he asked, a hint of surprise in his voice. Taking a deep breath, he pressed his hand against the bark. At that instant, a notification illuminated before his eyes: "You may use the Prosperous Blessing skill." Another line appeared: "All blessings will consume points." Chansu whispered the phrase like a mantra: "Prosperous Blessing." Immediately, he felt the energy accumulated from monster hunting surge through his body, streaming directly through his hands and into the dry, lifeless tree. A radiant stream of light poured from Chansu, spreading in all directions, making even the little hamster gape in astonishment, squeaking endlessly. Chansu strained every last bit of energy, pouring it into the tree. He had no idea how long the monsters on the hill would take to respawn, but as long as they did, he could continue to slay, gather energy, and bestow blessings again and again. The withered tree trembled, then surged upward with astonishing speed. Long branches shot out, fresh green leaves sprouted densely, and in the blink of an eye, the tree was covered in vibrant life. Pure white blossoms unfurled on the higher branches, releasing a faint fragrance before immediately folding back. In that same spot, young green fruits began to appear, swelling like water-filled balloons. Their color slowly deepened to a rich crimson, plump and heavy enough to bend the branches. Chansu, exhausted and gasping for breath, looked up in awe. The tree was now laden with gleaming red apples that shimmered like jewels in the afternoon sun. Trembling, he reached up and plucked one. He could hardly believe it, real apples. For the first time in his life, he saw the fruits of nature up close and realized how large and heavy they could be. Saliva threatened to spill as he ached to bite into it immediately, but he restrained himself. As a disciple, the first fruit must be offered to the goddess. The ginseng root raised its tiny arms, embracing the massive apple. Watching it hold the fruit, Chansu could not suppress a satisfied smile. But almost instantly, the apple began to shrivel at an alarming rate. Soon, all the juice was gone, leaving only a dried husk. Chansu's eyes widened in shock as he observed the goddess's method of absorbing the fruit. Undeterred, he climbed the tree again to harvest several more apples. Cradling them in his arms, he approached the little hamster to share, thinking to himself, "The goddess has given me a formidable skill called beheading, better stay cautious." Pushing aside all other thoughts, he focused on enjoying the apples in his hands. With each bite, the sweetness spread, delicious beyond measure, almost impossible to stop eating. Watching his devoted follower eagerly munching the fruit, the goddess of prosperity reflected, "What kind of monster is this? In just one day, he has hunted monsters and revived a massive tree in an instant. Where did this bizarre boy even come from?" Prosperity, the goddess in charge of food and agriculture, had once been a formidable force, presiding over countless high-quality agricultural products. But when disaster began consuming the other factions, Prosperity was forced to flee before that overwhelming power. To survive, she abandoned her commercial endeavors and turned to monster hunting. Naturally, the Prosperity faction, ill-suited for combat, could not win a single battle. In desperation, she converted her basic harvest skill into beheading, but by then the Prosperity faction had already teetered on the brink of extinction. Beheading was never meant as an offensive skill to slay monsters. It was designed to collect the heads of already dead beasts or monsters. Fighting simply was not Prosperity's forte, so this was all she could do. Of course, if someone possessed sufficient strength, it was not entirely impossible to use it offensively. Suddenly, Chansu rose, holding his sickle, interrupting the goddess's thoughts. When she saw him raise the sickle and glance toward her, she flinched, then heard him laugh cheerfully, declaring he wanted to pick more apples. Sweat poured from her, and she forced a wry smile, thinking, "Why has a child like this come to me?" Whatever the reason, from now on, this child belonged to her. As Chansu climbed down, the goddess, in her ginseng form, hastily twisted her twin roots around his legs, clutching him tightly. "I won't give him to anyone else." Chansu instinctively sensed that the goddess in her ginseng form had wrapped her roots tightly around his legs. A chilling thought flashed through his mind. Could she be trying to draw all his life energy? The sky took on the golden hue of sunset. Chansu, carrying a basket of apples on his back, slowly made his way toward the ruined castle. In his hands, the tiny ginseng had fallen into a deep, peaceful sleep. Carefully, he placed it on a flat stone, not wanting to wake it. Then, he gently poked the plump cheeks of the little hamster beside him, smiling tenderly. "You have worked hard today." The little hamster immediately resisted, squeaking in protest as if scolding him. Suddenly, a distinct rattle sounded from its stomach, startling both Chansu and the hamster. Meanwhile, the ginseng remained sound asleep, undisturbed. Not wanting to wake it, Chansu carefully placed the hamster on his shoulder and moved along quickly. His face bore a hint of dejection from his still empty stomach, muttering inwardly that apples alone were not enough. Just then, the notification sound echoed in the quiet space. A message appeared, a delivery event was underway. Looking at it, he could not help but wonder, so that is why there is this event. It must be because so many people had come from Earth. But for delivery, would not they need to know his exact location? The little hamster, bored, let out a long yawn and flopped lazily onto Chansu's shoulder, quickly falling asleep. Chansu smiled wryly, carefully lowering the hamster beside the sleeping ginseng. He then gathered some nearby leaves and gently covered both of them as if tucking them in with a blanket, letting them rest peacefully in the cool afternoon breeze. Elsewhere, in a place called the Sanctuary of Reincarnation, a young woman strode forward with fierce determination, her heels striking sharply against the stone floor as she made her way to a room where a man was intently writing. Bang! The sudden opening of the door made the man startle, dropping his pen. Trembling, he wrapped his arms around himself defensively, stammering, wait, the delivery. Why are you here, senior, are you joking with me? The young woman, Hei Sujin, disciple of reincarnation, gritted her teeth and cut him off. The man's face went pale as he hurriedly waved his hands in explanation. I do not know what you are talking about, but please, calm down first. Sujin, trembling with anger but her voice brimming with indignation, raised the delivery form in her hand. I am already buried under my own work, and now this. A business trip to the outskirts for 3 days and 2 nights. You know full well it is because of that damn free shipping event that I have not earned a single coin, right, and yet I still risked my life delivering these packages. For what in return? A single apple, and on top of that, they had the audacity to say they did not have any money and wanted to trade apples for goods. Bang! Sujin slammed both hands onto the desk, glaring fiercely. What did I do wrong? The man opposite her immediately broke into a cold sweat, his spine stiffening, eyes darting away. He tried to turn his head aside, stammering, no, nothing at all. Then he clasped his hands together and explained, on the contrary. It is just that our junior here is far too passionate about their work. I love my work too, but if you keep overworking yourself like this every day, your body won't be able to take it. Even if it is under the pretense of a business trip, you should rest. If you stay here, once this task is done, you will immediately have to move on to another. Go clear your head or something. Sujin, unwilling to yield, argued, I know it is because no one else wanted to take this trip, do not forget that. The man scratched his head sheepishly at being caught out, quickly guiding Sujin toward the door with his hands, adding, maybe you will get lucky and stumble upon a hidden territory along the way. Be careful. Sujin let out a long, helpless sigh. Fine, I am going. Off you go then. As she moved, her fingers swiftly swiped across the task list on the display screen. Why is the order list so endless? She muttered, brow furrowed, lips twitching. If she was heading into a restricted area, she needed to prepare thoroughly in advance. Her fingers clenched into fists. Taking a deep, resolute breath, determination and fatigue flickered in her eyes. She hoped this trip would not be in vain. Meanwhile, under a bright, clear sky with drifting white clouds, Chansu played hide and seek with the little hamster, surrounded by baskets brimming with bright red apples. The hamster hid behind a large apple, nibbling happily, squeaking in delight. Bet you can't catch me. Chansu stepped slowly closer, noticing the partially eaten apple, his eyes lighting up as he teased, where could you be? Could it be behind these apples? The little hamster froze in shock, covering its mouth with its tiny paws, too startled to move, but ultimately, Chansu caught it. He laughed, hoisting the hamster up and pressing its plump cheeks in his hands, before his expression turned serious. I will remind you, these apples are not for eating, they're for delivery. If you keep this up, what am I supposed to do at today's meeting? The ginseng sat perched on a nearby rock, nodding in agreement with its round, tiny head. Chansu sighed softly, not wanting their first meeting to leave a bad impression. Based on the information he had from registering to receive deliveries, the world truly lived up to its name. Different territories were divided into blocks. Though they looked like ordinary lands, the edges of the world were marked by walls. Moving to another block required a periodic travel pass. Around him, there was literally nothing. Even the nearest village was a week's journey away. He had eaten little beyond apples, and the delivery work would only take about 2 days. Weary, Chansu poked the little hamster's cheeks to relieve stress, then collapsed onto the ground. He did not know how they managed it, but as long as the sleeping bag arrived soon, it did not matter. A bed would be even better. He propped himself up, catching sight of the ginseng smiling broadly, waving a root in greeting. Chansu laughed, saying, "Oh, I even ordered a pillow for the goddess too." Outwardly, he smiled, but inwardly, he was calculating. To avoid becoming a dried-up mummy, he needed to win as much favor as possible. At that moment, the atmosphere shifted abruptly. Chansu tightened his grip on the sickle, and before him stretched a long line of undead demons, tailing one another as if offering their lives willingly. His eyes turned icy, utterly unmoved. True to their name, these undead kept coming, seemingly endless. Chansu lunged forward, ignoring whatever blocked his path. Kill first, think later. The sickle in his hands gleamed with a cold, metallic light. With just a few swift arcs, the entire group of undead shattered into clouds of dust. The little hamster on his shoulder bristled, shivering as it clung tightly to his collar. Chansu exhaled sharply, casting a brief glance over his shoulder at an undead charging in from behind to ambush him. Just as it lunged, he leaned sideways, evading it cleanly. Of course, he realized their movements had become faster. Gritting his teeth, his gaze grew even colder. Did these monsters have the ability to level up like skills, no matter how they adapted or changed? Chansu remained unshaken. He surged forward again, swinging his sickle in wide, slicing arcs, silver light tearing through the air like blades. In the blink of an eye, the entire pack of undead exploded into dust, fragments scattering in all directions. Chansu stood there, breathing evenly, his eyes sharp and unwavering, completely unaware that another pair of eyes had been watching him all this time. High above, suspended in the sky by the faint glow of winged shoes, Sujin, the disciple of reincarnation, stood with her arms crossed. She gazed down at the scene below, her eyes wide, utterly stunned. "This is insane," she murmured, her heartbeat briefly faltering. "What on earth is that?" Undead demons were the primary hunting targets because they granted far more points than ordinary monsters. Naturally, no matter how many times they were slain, they resurrected the next day, each time stronger than before. People soon realized that these creatures would pursue you even if you moved to a different sector. Worse yet, they left a curse on their victims, ultimately driving them to ruin. Naturally, everyone else avoided them. But Chansu continued swinging his sickle, each arc smooth and unhesitating. The scene did not resemble a battle so much as a farmer leisurely harvesting his crops. Hei Sujin had never in her life witnessed such an extreme mastery of swordsmanship. Swallowing hard, she thought, could he really be a swordmaster? But if he were, why would such a prodigy waste time on a trivial task like picking apples? Better not to provoke him. After a while, as Chansu fought, a notification popped up before his eyes. A rush of excitement surged. He gained points, and the rate increased from 5% to 10%. Clenching his fists, he felt satisfied. Each apple's blessing cost 1,000 points, so today he could manage 100 apples without issue. He cast a glance toward the temple, pondering why it existed in a place like this. Perhaps it was in a special sector. Suddenly, a figure appeared behind him, interrupting his thoughts. He saw a girl bow slightly, apologizing politely, "Sorry, sir." Then she straightened and smiled brightly, "It is a pleasure to meet you. I am Hei Sujin from the Transport Trading Company. Your order has arrived." Chansu's face lit up, and he eagerly shook her hand, surprised. "Oh, how did you find me so quickly? Ah, ha. Well, you are quite noticeable," she replied. Though she greeted him warmly, Sujin could not forget the sight of him casually decapitating the undead just moments ago. She remained vigilant. Suddenly, her gaze landed on a tiny ball of fur perched on Chansu's shoulder. Instantly, her mind flooded with mischievous thoughts. "I want to touch it. Squeeze it. Pet it." Seeing her face flush with desire, the little hamster froze, hiding behind him. Even while accompanying the man, her thoughts kept circling back to that tiny creature. The two of them reached the baskets of apples, but Sujin's focus remained on the little hamster. A gentle breeze carried the sweet aroma of the apples directly to her nose. They truly smelled delicious, did not they? Indeed, the fruit had grown superbly, ripe and luscious. Taking a few steps closer, Sujin stopped beneath an apple tree. The tree soared high, its branches heavy with massive, brilliantly colored apples, each nearly the size of a cantaloupe, not 3 or 4 times but 5 times larger than a normal apple. Seeing her astonished, Chansu asked with a smile, "Do you want to try one?" "Yes." "Really, I can taste one," Sujin asked, taking the fruit. She immediately felt its weight pressing down in her hand. The apple was fully ripe, juicy, and dense. She bit into it, and a crisp snap echoed, followed by a burst of juice flooding her mouth. The sweetness was overwhelming, astonishing even, but what impressed her most was the perfect balance of flavors. As she chewed, she could not stop calculating in her mind, how should she price these? At least 50,000 if marketed strategically, maybe even aiming for 100,000 yen. By the time the apple in her hand was more than half eaten, Sujin had finished her calculations. The customer, Chansu, selling these at 2,000 gold each would be absurd. Chansu scratched his head with a sheepish grin. Too expensive, maybe they should be cheaper in the shop. How much then? Sujin held up 2 fingers, and Chansu stared at them, slightly bewildered. 20,000, that seemed high. Gritting her teeth, Sujin steeled herself to speak. At the very least, each apple should sell for 20,000 gold to reflect its true value. Chansu's eyes widened in astonishment. Seeing his naive expression, a spark of ambition flickered in Sujin's mind. But when she looked at the heavily laden apple tree, she restrained herself. Honestly, each apple seemed worth at least 30,000 gold. So expensive, Sujin decided to lay all her cards on the table. Compared with a risky tug-of-war, a long-term trade based on trust would be far better. And besides, life only comes once. Chansu still could not believe it. Is not it just an apple? He asked, fearing he would misheard. Sujin picked up an apple to explain, this is the first time I have ever tasted a fruit this exquisite. Over all this time, I have tried every fruit from around the world. I truly believe this apple is more valuable than any other specialty product. She then pulled out a contract and continued, so for now, let us price it at 20,000 gold per apple, and I would like to settle the remainder through a formal contract. What do you think? Chansu took the pen, silently reading through the agreement. After a moment of thought, he smiled. All right, but let us do it this way. Sujin reread the contract, eyes widening. I think you made a mistake. The percentage we receive has increased. Chansu beamed. That is because I want to do business with a trustworthy person long term, and you honestly told me the true value of the apples, did not you? Seeing him extend his hand, Sujin felt a mix of surprise and helplessness, then smiled. Thank you so much for signing. Now I will hand over what you ordered. She pulled each item from Chansu's backpack. Here are the seeds, food supplies, and cooking tools you requested. And this is an egg of a companion beast, a gift from the transport trading company to commemorate our deal. Perhaps it will help with your farming, she added. Chansu took the egg, while the little hamster peered down curiously. Sujin continued, the more points you channel into the blessing, the stronger the companion beast that hatches. But be careful, too much force could crack the egg. I recommend stopping when the egg starts to tremble violently. By the way, could you tell me about apple yield and future harvest times? Chansu replied that he planned to plant other crops as well, estimating about 50 apples per day. They then coordinated schedules, quantities, and future delivery cycles. After adjusting all the other details, their first deal was officially complete. The ginseng root clutched the pillow tightly, refusing to let go. Chansu chuckled at the sight, selling just one batch of apples and already feeling this rich, all thanks to that goddess. Suddenly, the ginseng root moved. Not understanding where it wanted to go, Chansu followed and saw it head straight into the bird's nest, clutching an egg. Seeing the ginseng root's eyes gleam with excitement as it looked at him, Chansu forced a smile and thought, if I want to channel a blessing into this companion beast egg, I will need even more points. He scrolled through the notification frame, searching for ways to gain more regular customers, eventually landing on the monster pole. A chill ran down his spine, but after a moment, he smiled lightly to himself. Now, he had so much free time, and everything was going better than expected. There would be many things in the future, but he was not afraid. In fact, he was eagerly looking forward to them. Back in the city, Sujin immediately went to find her senior and superior. A pioneering practitioner, or perhaps a devoted follower. Surely someone from the alchemist faction. I am from Korea, warlike or violent forces. I have no idea what their intentions are, the man said, looking at the apple in his hand. All the practitioners sent out initially were from Korea, so it is not surprising that someone capable of producing something like this also happens to be skilled in combat. Sujin bowed, trembling, remembering how he had decapitated over 100 immortal demons with only a rusty sickle. The man chewed thoughtfully. It seems he is aiming to become a swordmaster. Practicing with a sickle might actually help him, but it would be better to hide him rather than focus on protecting him. I agree. And we should sell these apples in a department store. Definitely. Suddenly, Sujin grabbed the man's hand mid-bite. What are you doing? Let go. You already ate all the apples yourself. I am the senior here. And I am the one who delivered them. This piece is mine. As night fell, Chansu sat quietly, channeling his energy into the egg. What would hatch from it? Would it be cute or hardworking? Either way, it would be amazing. The three of them, the boy, the hamster, and the ginseng root, shared a joyful laugh. A moment later, a cracking sound came from the egg. Excitement surged as they watched it. The shell broke completely, revealing a companion beast of SSS rank. A leg poked out first, then a pair of wings, and finally a creature that looked very much like a baby chick. It let out a single, high-pitched cheep, and Chansu froze on the spot. He had spent 120,000 points. Only for a chick to hatch. Watching the little thing wobble around, he could not help feeling deflated. Sure, it looked a bit bigger than an ordinary chick, but once it grew up, it would still just be a rooster. He had hoped for something far more useful. Maybe he should just raise it until it was big enough to eat. He could practically taste fried chicken already. But this was a chick he would bought with 120,000 points. He could not afford to get attached. He should at least give it some simple placeholder name. Hello there. From today on, your name is Ari. And I am O Chansu. Ari pointed a tiny wing toward the remaining egg. Chansu pinned all his remaining expectations onto that one. Crack, crack, the shell split open. A piglet tumbled out. In that moment, Chansu was utterly defeated. Why were they all food ingredients, companion beasts? Was this some kind of scam? Even though he was disappointed, he still gave the piglet a name, Doji. Late that night, Ari and Doji slipped away to visit the goddess of prosperity. Both bowed deeply. Cheep cheep, chick no. 10 greets the goddess of prosperity. Oink oink, pig no. 12 greets the goddess of prosperity. It has been a long time, the goddess said softly. I beg your forgiveness for not being able to protect you to the end. Cheep, please do not say that, my lady. Cheep cheep, we are the ones who should apologize for failing to serve you properly. Oink, we will do our utmost so that you may regain your true form. Thank you, the goddess whispered, but be careful. He does not know the two of you are my kin. If he decides you are useless, he might sell you. Or even eat you. The goddess's words left both tiny creatures pale with fear. She continued, until you gain a communication skill, you must do your best. Oink. Are the goddess's words true? Sheep, are you kidding me? That can't be real. Right. Cheep cheep, let us just observe for now. The next morning, Chansu stretched and yawned as he walked out, smiling as he began his day with the immortal demons sending them good wishes through a series of slicing, decisive swings. The noise woke the chick and piglet, who shuffled outside to look. The sight of demon heads flying left the two trembling. Cheep cheep, what? What was that? Cheep was that a skill? Oink, chopping. Chansu was already used to all of this. Every swing of his sickle landed cleanly, without missing once. The two little beasts stood frozen as they watched the immortal demons dissolve into nothing. A chunk of flesh flew near them, making both break into a cold sweat. Cheep cheep, no wonder I felt the apostle staring at us like we were food. Oink, what do we do? Cheep, he really might eat us. A notification popped up, 202 immortal demons hunted. Chansu wiped the sweat off his forehead after finishing the last one. A rustling noise made him turn abruptly. Oh, when did you two get here? Cheep cheep, collapse. The apostle of the goddess has worked hard. Are you tired? Oink oink. Haha, apostle, huh, well, good morning to you too. Cheep cheep, smile, smile. He had no idea what they were saying. He just found them cute. Suddenly remembering something, he glanced at the apple tree, then brought over a plate of sliced apples. Here, do you want to try some? Oink oink, me. Cheep cheep, do not eat too much, do not fall for temptations. You have got quite an appetite, huh, eat a lot and grow quickly. Oink, so tasty. No wonder apple-fed pigs are all the rage these days. I wonder if the meat tastes better when the animal's raised on fruit. The chick jolted in horror and immediately dragged the piglet back. Stop eating, you fool. You are going to turn into apple-flavored pork belly. Chansu held out a slice of apple toward the chick. Ari, do you want some too? Ari tilted her tiny head and paused, thoughts racing. What is this flavor? Over 500 points. Insane, is this really the daily income of a regular apostle? She fought the urge, spinning her head away. Cheap, I won't be fooled, she seemed to say with a determined flap. Seeing Ari refuse, Chansu scratched his head, thinking she did not like it. He tossed a bit of grain her way instead. Her eyes lit up like twin sparks as she stared at the food, so eager to eat, yet terrified she might end up as fried chicken. Reason wrestled with desire, but the heart always wins eventually, even for a chick. For the next 3 minutes, Chansu supervised as they worked together on the crops. Doji pawed at the soil with dedication. Ari planted black beans, covered the seeds, watered them, and activated her blessing of prosperity skill. Easy enough, right? Truly, their goddess was remarkable. The black beans grew plump, shiny, and perfect. Suddenly, the air seemed to drop in pressure, and Chansu shivered. He quickly shook a bean in front of Ari. The little chick jumped to snatch it, but Chansu dodged. It had to be the first harvest for the goddess. Curing root, perched happily on the basket of black beans, seemed to radiate joy as it absorbed the energy around it. Chansu picked up a handful and said, "You two can eat too. Later we will plant potatoes and sweet potatoes." Seeing the piglet dive in is normal, but watching Ari eat so quickly is a bit surprising. After devouring their share, both collapsed with satisfied sighs. Cheap. Finally, I lose to hunger, Ari admitted. I am finished too, Doji grunted contentedly. Watching the two finally full, Chansu smiled. Good, I am glad you enjoyed it. Now let us hurry and plant more crops so you can eat again. Suddenly, he remembered, today was apple selling day. A flicker of worry crossed his mind. Would they sell well? At the trade center, the man at the counter scrolled through the information, glancing down at the crowd below. Many customers were gathered, but no one dared to buy. The imperial apples sat atop their display, dusted with golden powder, while winter feathers sold below for 200,000 gold. Though the apples were arrogantly titled imperial and wrapped luxuriously, the exorbitant price seemed to irritate everyone. The man paused, perplexed, trying to think of a way to advertise their flavor without offering tastings. Suddenly, a voice rang out, "Thank you, valued customer." Confused by the sudden commotion, he hurried to ask a staff member, only to learn that the apples had completely sold out. Not a single one remained on the table. The buyer who had cleared them all was a man of some renown, Rohan. Hearing the name, the man could hardly believe it, shouting in shock. Rohan, a pioneer of extreme training methods and an unprecedented master swordsman, had bought their apples. This was sensational news. Although it had quickly become a hot topic, Rohan, the embodiment of perseverance, was famously known to have eaten these very apples while training to become a master swordsman. Netizens buzzed with excitement. The food I have always used during training is finally available on the market. The news left the man at the counter wringing his hands in frustration, shouting in outrage, "How can you people post articles like this?" Countless calls flooded in, all to verify the story. He explained over and over, yet no one seemed willing to believe him. The phone rang again, and his face darkened as he reluctantly picked up. Hearing the caller calmly request hundreds of crates of apples without prior notice, he nearly lost his mind. He roared, "This is not something that can be done easily." It had been a week since Chansu set foot in this new world, and in that short time, he had already built a comfortable life. Today, however, was a busy day. Now that they have eaten, I should probably get ready too, he muttered to himself. The stove was prepped, ingredients laid out neatly, a plate of potatoes, sweet potatoes, and everything else needed for cooking. Chansu held a sweet potato in one hand and a regular potato in the other, his face lighting up with excitement. "Ha, these are just as good as the apples." He quickly peeled the potatoes, slicing them evenly before tossing them onto a high flame to begin stir-frying. Doji, the piglet, trotted over, squealing and pointing at a wet patch of soil. Chansu crouched down to inspect and realized it was covered in the piglet's saliva. "This is not for you guys, you just finished eating," he said. Doji's eyes sparkled with pleading innocence, and Chansu could not resist. He gave the piglet another bite. From a distance, Sujin approached. "Customer O Chansu." Oh, you are here already. Upon seeing her, all three creatures ducked low, trying to hide the ginseng behind them. Sujin ignored them, rummaging through her bag. I have good news for you, want to hear it? She pulled out a statistical chart and held it up. Do not be surprised. Every single apple sold for 200,000 gold and has been completely sold out for 2 consecutive days. Chansu scratched his head, wide-eyed. 200,000 gold per apple, and sold out 2 days in a row. Sujin exhaled with pride. Unbelievable, right, but it is true. There are not even enough apples left to sell. Chansu thought back to Earth, where apples sold for around 990 gold. And yet here, prices were astronomical. Only the wealthiest buyers could afford them. He bent down to examine the numbers, calculating quickly. With his share at about 30%, that meant he earned 60,000 gold per apple. If he sold 50 apples a day, that added up to 3 million gold daily. Annual income, 1 billion gold. Imagining that staggering sum, Chansu could not help but laugh, a deep, hearty laugh. What could be more exhilarating than suddenly becoming rich? The happiness spread through him as he thought about it. With that kind of money, he would finally have the means to start searching for his parents. Chansu looked at Sujin and spoke slowly. The commission fees at the trade center must be quite high, right? You brought me a valuable product, so I will do my best to negotiate and reduce your fees. I do not want you to feel discouraged. Then, getting straight to the point, he asked, how long do you think the fame of the imperial apples will last? I know it is popular now, but we can't expect it to sell for 200,000 gold forever. Sujin responded seriously, I understand your concern. But we have 1 million potential customers, and even if we sell just 100 apples a day, it would take 27 years to reach them all. During that time, we will definitely build a stable base of regular buyers. What? 1 million potential customers? Chansu's eyes went wide. By Earth standards, that was a staggering number. Sujin, however, explained calmly, the current market size is roughly equivalent to China. You really do not need to worry. After clarifying that, she suddenly grabbed Chansu's hand, her voice filled with eager anticipation. So, Mr. Oh Chansu, do you plan to increase apple production? Chansu pulled his hand back, giving a sheepish smile. Ah, well, for now my other crops have grown too. Would you like to try them? They are just as delicious as the apples. At this, Sujin's eyes lit up like stars, and she grabbed his hand again, almost impatiently. There are things as tasty as the apples. Chansu brought over the pot he had just cooked, and the fragrant aroma wafted up, teasing Sujin's nose and refusing to let her look away. On the table was a plate of steaming boiled potatoes, mist curling upward in gentle plumes. She hurriedly speared a piece and popped it into her mouth. The rich, sweet, nutty flavor melted across her tongue, and her eyes sparkled with delight. It was overwhelmingly good. The crust carried the fragrance of nuts, while the soft, spongy interior was perfect. Seeing her enthusiastic reaction, Chansu brought out 2 more plates, one with golden, crispy fried potatoes and another with piping hot pastries. When Sujin broke into the pastry, the creamy filling and flowing golden sauce mingled perfectly with the fried potatoes. She eagerly tasted it, and as soon as she bit in, tears of joy sprang to her eyes. This dish could easily make it onto the menu of a high-end restaurant. The potatoes were not just a side, they could stand as a main course worthy of praise. Chansu scratched his head, embarrassed but smiling. I am glad it suits your taste. Finally, it was time for Doji's favorite, baked sweet potatoes. Seeing her favorite treat, the little piglet ran over, squealing, give me, give me. The chick stood nearby, utterly despairing, feeling like its life was about to end. Chansu chuckled at the scene, sitting down and handing each of the 2 little creatures a piece. Meanwhile, the tiny ginseng mouse nimbly climbed onto the table, its dark, glossy eyes locked on the steaming sweet potato. It was inevitable. Sujin's animal-loving heart flared up. Her hands moved on their own. Too cute, and the fur is so soft, she murmured. Chansu noticed and turned to her. I was thinking of selling these other crops too. What do you think? Sujin startled, clearing her throat to hide her fluster, but her other hand had already achieved its goal, gently stroking the mouse's silky fur. First, I must say, the food is delicious. But is it okay to increase apple production while also growing these other crops? Chansu paused, replying softly, it would really be difficult without more points. He realized he could not spend all his points solely on farming. Sujin looked at him seriously. In that case, I truly appreciate everything you have prepared, but I must ask you to focus on the apples. As you know, most of the followers are Korean, and the culture in this world is heavily influenced by that. While I am genuinely surprised you can make such delicious dishes, other crops won't sell at a high price. Even if there is demand, the profit simply can't match the apples. She bowed slightly, her voice earnest. Mr. Chansu, demand for the apples will only continue to grow. I sincerely beg you, please consider our situation. Faced with her earnest plea, Chansu was silent for a moment, then slowly asked, 100 apples a day, is that possible? Sujin froze, eyes wide, hardly able to believe what she had just heard. Really, she stammered, her voice trembling. Really, he confirmed softly, a small smile curving his lips. Internally, he thought there was no need to make things harder for himself. This was worth trying. Sujin, having just eaten so happily, felt the little mouse in her hand squeeze a bit tighter, and she broke into a radiant smile of gratitude. The next day, Chansu took up his sickle and went to deal with the immortal demons. As usual, the little piglet and the chick trailed behind him. Do we really have to follow him every day? What can we even do? Chip, stop talking nonsense. If we do not dare to fight, then who will? Should we tell that clueless little mouse to do it? The chick flapped its wings in anger, feathers ruffling wildly. Chansu frowned, turning back to glare at them. Why do you follow me every single day? Are these really supposed to be battle pets? A servant beast that only knows how to eat is completely useless. He had not even thought much further when the scene in front of him made his expression darken. The piglet and the chick were being chased in circles by the immortal demons. He shook his head in exasperation. He would clearly overestimated them. Thankfully, the demons moved slowly. But soon the piglet was running so frantically that it was sweating and panting, barely able to keep moving. Its wide, terrified eyes darted upward in panic. You idiot, run faster, Chansu shouted, leaping forward, but the distance was still too great. Get out of the way. Doji, a sickle swooped down, but it seemed too late. The chick, terrified, clutched its head and chirped anxiously. Its eyes shimmered with fear as a swish sounded through the air. The scene froze Chansu in place. The immortal demon had already been cut in half. Wait, I did not even hit it. Was the reach longer, or did the skill upgrade automatically? He considered that if he paid attention to the angle, positioning of the sickle, and even the speed, he could probably replicate it immediately. Chansu swung his sickle from a distance again. The arc of the blade struck perfectly, felling another demon. A notification popped up, new skill activated, ultimate beheading. The range of the beheading skill had been extended. Ultimate beheading. What kind of name was that? Chansu furrowed his brows, then broke into a satisfied grin as more demons surged forward. Ha ha, not bad at all. A wider strike range and more regulars will be attracted. His laughter echoed through the area, making the two little creatures shiver, clutching each other tightly. In a panic, the two little creatures ran off to find the goddess. Oink oink, goddess, goddess, something terrible has happened. What has gotten into you two? Why are you so frantic? The goddess asked, bewildered. The chick burst into tears as it spoke. The apostle. He has started chopping off 4 or 5 heads at once. Being stronger is a good thing, but should not we prioritize communication skills first? The goddess gently tried to calm them. Relax. I have never granted him any such skill. The chick sobbed harder, trembling. I am so scared of being eaten that I do not even dare eat my own meals anymore. The piglet, calmer than the chick, asked directly, oink. The skill's name is Ultimate Beheading. Did you grant that to him? At those words, the goddess froze as if struck by lightning. Ultimate. What even is that? That sounds horrifying. I have never heard of such a skill, she whispered, stunned. Her round eyes widened with genuine confusion. Is he truly human, or some messenger from the underworld? But then something seemed to click in her mind. The goddess inhaled sharply and turned to the two trembling creatures. You too. I think I know what is going on. Oink. The piglet lit up. I knew it, the goddess must have granted him the skill. Smack. The chick immediately kicked the piglet. You idiot, shut up. Then it turned back to the goddess. So what actually happened? The goddess's expression hardened as she began to explain. It appears that the follower's skill has evolved. As you two know, beheading was originally derived from the harvest skill. Do you remember, when harvest evolves, it can reap across a wider area? In the same way, the beheading skill has now evolved into ultimate beheading, meaning its attack range has expanded and its destructive power has increased dramatically. The chick turned pale, clutching the piglet's ear as it trembled. But only followers who have been devoted for at least a year are supposed to reach that level. The goddess nodded softly, her tone gentling. Precisely. That is why he is terrifying but also extraordinary. His pace of evolution is so fast it resembles that of a monster. It is no wonder you two are frightened. But thanks to him, we are all still alive to sit here and talk right now. As she said this, the ginseng-shaped goddess reached out and gently patted the chick's head. When he returns, I will grant him a communication skill. So do not worry too much. The chick continued trembling but seemed somewhat comforted. Quietly, it sniffled, I am sorry. I showed such an ugly side of myself. In the distance, Chansu was already returning, happily waving as he approached. The goddess waved back quickly, her expression softening into an odd sort of affectionate fondness. A strange longing stirred inside her. I truly do not know what to say anymore. I can't wait to speak with my follower directly. First of all, I will introduce these little ones as my subordinates. But she reminded herself, limiting a follower's path violates the rules of the world. He must be free to choose. Just then, as Chansu drew near, a notification window appeared before him. The goddess of prosperity grants you a new skill. Please choose one skill. Prosperity's promise. Communication. Chansu hesitated, uncertain which one to pick. Meanwhile, the goddess stared at him with eager anticipation. Of course, he is my apostle. He will choose communication. Then I will make sure he stays away from dangerous battles. And the first thing I will say is thank you. Thank you for choosing me. Chansu tapped one of the options. The screen flashed. Skill selection complete. You have acquired Prosperity's Promise. The ginseng goddess, who had been eagerly awaiting his first words, watched her smile fade. Moments earlier, Chansu had been staring at the two skills, deep in thought. Prosperity's Promise, I do not know what that is. And communication. Does that mean talking with animals and plants? Immediately, visions sprang up in his mind. How could you do that to me? I trusted you. I thought we were family. I will take revenge. I will peck you until my beak breaks. Chan, have you ever borne fruit 100 times in a single day? My shoulders are killing me. The thought of hearing things like that made his skin crawl. So he made a firm decision, better not to know. Absolutely do not choose communication. And with that, he selected Prosperity's Promise. The system confirmed it a moment later. Skill selection complete. Suddenly, the atmosphere sagged. Seeing the goddess and the two little creatures looking downcast and gloomy, Chansu wondered why they were suddenly so sad. But for now, he decided to focus on the skill, no further explanations needed. Promise to the goddess of prosperity. To atone, he murmured, selecting the biggest, most perfect apple. After choosing one that satisfied him, he brought it to the ginseng-shaped goddess, only to be met with a dejected expression. It slumped into a corner, spinning away in melancholy. Confused by the sudden sadness, Chansu's attention was drawn back to the notification. Skill usage points will accumulate depending on skill application. I did not eat it myself. I gave it to them. So is that considered a success? If I keep the promise, I will gain more points. Seems like a mission has been assigned. Let us do this. This time, I will pinch a cheek. He pinched the little mouse's cheek and actually earned points. Excited, he teased the mouse, should I do it again? The mouse struggled in response. Moving on, he targeted the piglet and chick, startling them so thoroughly they seemed to forget their own names. He offered an apple to Doji, yet he did not receive any points, puzzled. Then he noticed the piglet's eyes gleaming with undeniable hunger. Could it still be hungry? I have already given it over 10 apples. Realizing the cause, Chansu gave up. Just then, Sujin hurried over, breathless. Customer Oh Chansu, she had returned after only a single day. What is the matter? Chansu asked. Sujin panted as she spoke. Not the time for that. You need to secure this block and protect it immediately. Chansu froze. Wait, someone's coming. Sujin's voice quickened. Most likely. The popularity of the Emperor Apple has reached such a level that we had to limit the number of purchases, but even so, 5,000 people have placed pre-orders. At the figure 5,000, Chansu's eyes nearly popped out of his head. They said it does not matter when. Just send the apples whenever they are available. That means the thieves are targeting the apples, and this block will be the hotspot. There is no way to stop the crime here unless someone provides protection. Hearing the word protection, Chansu instinctively glanced back at the goddess, who was hiding behind him. If we fail, it won't just be the goddess at stake, prosperity itself could end. Sujin suggested a plan. At minimum, you must seize this block and install an entrance. Chansu added his thoughts. Take the surrounding blocks and establish a hidden base. That will also get us closer to your position, Sujin. Sujin nodded in agreement. Only then did Chansu ask the question that had been nagging him. By the way, why have so many people pre-ordered? This is not an ordinary situation, do not you see, everyone is obsessed with the Emperor Apple. Rumor has it, eating it can increase skill experience, cure illnesses, prevent diseases, cleanse skin, reduce fatigue, whiten teeth, aid weight loss, and improve memory. Chansu's jaw dropped. Are you joking? Why not just say it is an elixir of immortality? Sujin teased, would not that be nice? I had hoped, but sadly. Chansu clenched his teeth, bewildered by how absurd this had become. But for now, securing the block was the priority. Sujin's face lit up with anticipation. Is not that true, really? Of course not, it is just an apple, Chansu replied. Meanwhile, in a hospital room, a man lurked silently, keeping an eye on another man. He was a paparazzo searching for a story. Sunlight streamed through the window as a man lay on the bed working. This man was Hong Eun-soo, impersonating Mr. Kim, the wealthy Kim attorney. Rohan placed a gift box on the table. A get-well gift, he said. Eun-soo looked up, intrigued. You knew I would be getting a little extra today. Inside the box lay the Emperor Apple. Eun-soo raised an eyebrow. Is this the apple? The apple, Rohan replied. The very one you discovered, the one you bought out entirely. Rohan's tone sharpened slightly. Stop talking nonsense. Eun-soo peeled the apple with a smile. I knew it all along. He then took a bite of the apple, and his taste buds exploded. His eyes lit up like twin stars, and he could not help but exclaim, oh my god, it is like the flavor and nutrition have reached their absolute peak. Are the other apples this good? How different could the taste possibly be? Rohan chewed leisurely, replying without urgency, who knows if I am even a food connoisseur? Eun-soo examined the bite thoughtfully. Then even with your senses, it must be hard to tell how it was grown, right? Even using special fertilizers, it is incredibly difficult to enhance the flavor and aroma uniformly across all the apples. Rohan barely seemed to care, still diligently eating the apples. Eun-soo watched as the plate was emptied and growled in frustration. You brought these as a get-well gift, and you just ate them all. He then grabbed his phone to place an order, but was disappointed to find the stock sold out and many pre-orders already placed. Hanging up, Eun-soo lowered his voice. You still have more, right? Sell them to me, I will pay double. No, triple, Rohan countered with a crossed-arm grin, refusing. Meanwhile, the paparazzo snapped picture after picture, capturing every moment between the two men. The next day, a headline broke, wealthy alchemist Hong Eun-soo released from hospital immediately after eating the Emperor Apple. Maybe the Emperor Apple really is an elixir if it can cure the aftereffects of alchemy, Ruan, Sujin's superior, fumed upon seeing the news. He slammed his hand on the desk in anger. I have already been swamped dealing with these ridiculous rumors. Are they mocking us, really, or are they just adding fuel to the fire? Have not I told them this is not some magical elixir? Chansu turned back and reported to the goddess, Your Grace, it looks like we need to secure the blocks around here. Startled, the goddess dropped the piece of food she was holding. I will go immediately tonight. She froze, staring at him as he spoke. Doji, Ari, you two must protect the goddess properly. You just got your new skills, and now you want to rush off. That skill was not meant for combat. Without hesitation, the tiny goddess darted forward on her small legs. Chansu bent down, watching her constantly paw at his feet. Do not go, it is too dangerous. Your Grace. He murmured, bewildered. Then suddenly, an idea struck him, and his eyes widened. Could it be? He looked toward Hamdali. Finally, the opportunity had arrived. In Chansu's mind, all kinds of food flashed before him. It is time for some protein. Though even now, it already smells amazing. He glanced down at the small creatures at his feet. I could not possibly eat meat right in front of them. So he smiled and turned to them. Beef is fine, right, since the goddess requested it, please understand. Without wasting a moment, he dashed into the storage area to search for what he needed. Chansu began rummaging through everything, looking for the right item. A little while later, his face lit up with excitement and joy. He had found it, the beef he had pre-ordered. Before him lay a tray of succulent, high-quality beef. He was moved, recalling that this was real meat, something he had only ever heard of. On Earth, all meat was lab-grown, and he had only seen pictures, but just looking at them had already made his mouth water. Quickly, Chansu fired up the stove and began grilling the beef. The savory aroma spread through the air, making him marvel. Just the scent alone was completely different from lab-grown meat. Doji, standing behind him, huffed and puffed with excitement. Amazing. Not yet, Chansu quickly reminded him, that is for the goddess. Ari, standing nearby, could not help teasing, the pig just finished eating, and now it wants more. That is not right, Your Grace. At that moment, when they glanced at the goddess, her expression was intense and fearsome, as if the food was not enough. Ari panicked and shouted, it seems the goddess is hungry, check it out. Chansu turned back and reassured them, almost done, Your Grace. Just a little longer. He then carefully placed a hot, fragrant, and richly marbled piece of beef in front of her. Please, Your Grace, eat first. It is hot, so be careful. But she immediately threw the piece of beef down in anger. Not this, I told you not to go. Our clueless Chansu still did not understand, worried. Has the meat gone bad? No. She can't be mad already, I just bought it. So he reached out again, carefully picking up a piece to try. He put the fragrant, marbled beef in his mouth, chewing and swallowing. Delicious, truly delicious, but there was something. The thought made his expression fall. Too bad. It does not leave as strong an impression as the apple did. Chansu suddenly looked toward the goddess and realized. That was why she had not eaten. He guessed that the flavor was not perfect. On the other side, the goddess's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, silently pleading, do not go. Do not go. I told you not to go. Do not leave. You are my disciple. Do not go. I said not to go. Listen to me. Suddenly, Chansu stepped closer to her and smiled. He spoke with determination, I will find an even better cut of meat for you, Your Grace. Please be patient a little longer. Ari and Doji blinked in surprise. Time passed until 11:59 p.m. Ari and Doji were now full and sound asleep. One more bite. No, if I eat more, I won't be able to turn back. The little radish-like goddess still sat in the corner, sad. Tears welled up in her eyes as she stared silently toward the outside world, almost ready to cry. Meanwhile, Chansu was observing the forest around him. The moonlight and scattered lights bathed the night in a dream-like glow. This is the boundary of the block, he whispered. Before him stood a translucent door that shimmered with a pale blue light. He touched it and marveled. From a distance, the scenery stretched on endlessly. Space itself seemed to ripple. Suddenly, the system chimed in, do you want to move to block 35N10E? Chansu replied, yes, let us go. The system windows began to appear, loading. Tip. Travel tickets will be restored at midnight. Chansu was amazed. A tip appears whenever I pass a block, how considerate. Suddenly, the oil lamp in his hand went out. Scary. The lamp's gone. After a moment, the space in front of Chansu shifted, and the lamp lit up again. A dense forest stretched before him. He spun around, exclaiming. The scenery was completely different from where he had been. Then Chansu looked up sharply, eyes wide. A swarm of creatures clustered in the sky, like dark shadows. Squinting to see more clearly, he realized it was a huge, terrifying figure charging toward him. Oh no, he yelled. Immediately, Chansu spun around, fleeing in the opposite direction. His hand gripped the scythe tightly, ready for anything. What kind of insects or monsters are those? Chansu kept running while swinging back at the creatures that got too close. They were far too small, darting around him in erratic patterns. He hacked at them again and again with his scythe, but they were incredibly hard to hit. Glancing over his shoulder, he made a split-second decision. Damn it. I have to go back. He reached behind him and pressed his hand against the translucent wall. Instantly, dark silhouettes with razor-sharp hands slipped out from within. Chansu froze in shock. The immortal goblins. Why are you here? Do not tell me you came to protect me. The goblins flushed in embarrassment, muttering, we are the ones who will kill you. That is why we will fight with you this time. They launched themselves at the swarm of flying creatures. Chansu kept running, shouting, oh my god. When he turned back, he saw the immortal goblins effortlessly erasing the insect-like monsters. He skidded to a stop. This was his chance. He cut through the goblins blocking his path, carving out space to retreat. I need to get out first. Reaching toward the boundary gate, he saw the goblins reaching out as well, trying to keep him from leaving. With all his strength, eyes shut tight, Chansu hurled himself through the doorway. Moments later, he collapsed to the ground, panting hard. I almost died. A system window appeared. Tip. Defeat adult monsters to receive bonus points. Chansu replayed what he had seen, stunned. Bonus points, does that mean I get points from the monsters the immortal goblins kill? This is. He smiled faintly. This is a gold mine of points. In that case, things are different now. Just then, the immortal goblins crossed through behind him as well. All right, my customers, he said, raising his scythe in front of them. Let us get some training in. Honestly, my regulars are impossible to hate. No one can resist free rewards. Scene shift. Piles of documents were stacked across the desk. A frustrated groan filled the room. Senior. I am going insane because of all these complaint calls. Hei Su-jin lay slumped over the table, exhausted. These ridiculous rumors about the Emperor Apple are getting out of hand. Her senior lowered his head, trembling. I ignored it until now because it helped with marketing, but you are right. We can't let these baseless rumors spiral anymore. When he finally raised his face, he looked completely drained. From now on, no more comments about the Emperor Apple. Do not answer any inquiry calls. Do not accept any interviews. Handle every question with silence and ignore it. She stared at him, stunned. Is that really okay? Won't it cause chaos? He answered firmly, of course. Even if someone holds a knife to your throat, you must not reveal anything. His commanding voice rang out, full of authority. These people need to be taught a lesson. Yet behind him, a shadow quietly stood unnoticed. Hei Su-jin's eyes widened, and she stammered, Senior. She hesitated, then asked cautiously, about what you said earlier. If someone really held a knife to your throat, what would you do? He blinked, caught off guard. What? Are you joking now? This is meaningless talk, he replied, brushing it off, but then he noticed something unusual beside him. Hei Su-jin's voice wavered as she warned, someone. Behind you. Tears streamed down her face. He spun around, incredulous. Are you trying to scare me? A cold, calm voice answered from behind, apologies for startling you. This is merely a polite greeting. Before them stood a strikingly handsome man, none other than the sword god, Rohan. Greeting, that is not a threat. How did he even get in here, he thought, eyes narrowing as he turned to confront him. What brings you here? Rohan rested his hand on the desk. Earlier, I located the former director, but he was tight-lipped. I hope you won't be the same. Tell me. He cut straight to the point, eyes sharp, voice unwavering. Where is the grower of the Emperor Apples currently located? When Rohan pressed him, the brown-haired man trembled violently. This matter. Panicked, he lunged at Su-jin, clutching her. Hey, explain this, now. Startled, she whispered back, are you joking? Why would a senior hide behind me like that? The brown-haired man turned pale with fear. Who would have guessed he actually brought a sword? I still have family at home. Hearing Su-jin's explanation, he realized with disappointment that there was not a single trustworthy senior. Gritting her teeth, Su-jin spoke up firmly, if you have met our bot, then you should understand. The shipping company we work for never sells customer information. The man nodded approvingly. Good. Though she spoke so boldly, her body shook, her hands and legs trembling uncontrollably from fear. Rohan, calm and composed, drew his sword. I see. So that is how it is. I wanted to resolve this easily, but it seems that won't be possible. The two of them clung together, sobbing. Please. Do not kill us. Yet Rohan did not attack. Instead, unexpectedly, he slammed the tip of his sword into the floor. Moments later, the blade pointed decisively toward the east. Having established a direction, he turned and departed. I will follow my instincts, he declared, leaving them stunned. What? Instincts? Unable to suppress her curiosity, Sujin whispered, Instincts, what do you mean by that? The brown-haired man explained, the life of a sword saint is entirely different from ours. I heard that Rohan has solved many problems using just his instincts. This was almost impossible for Sujin to believe. Can a person really possess such ability? One night, under the brilliant moonlight, Chansu continuously watched the entrance. He had not arrived yet. The wait grew increasingly tedious. It must be urgent. I am really anxious. Because she said, Oh Chansu, the sword saint, will visit this block soon. Chansu muttered in frustration. I thought even a sword saint would be restricted in movement. Not even a single shipment could be delivered in 2 days. As his patience waned, the system notified him. Someone had entered the block. Unable to contain his excitement, he sprang to his feet. It is Cao Cao, he is finally here. Despite the alert, the door remained firmly shut. Chansu frowned. Is this a glitch, or not all visitors supposed to enter through this door? After a moment of inspection, he concluded that it was not a system error. Deciding to be cautious, he began checking the surroundings. During his patrol, he noticed something unusual. The block was split, a massive crack stretching high into the air. Seeing this, Chansu froze. Has he returned the block's borders? Is that even possible? Through the crack in the block, a figure stepped in with steady, deliberate strides. The sunlight streaming down only highlighted the brilliant color of Rohan's hair even more. Watching the imposing figure before him, Chansu could not help but wonder, is this really the sword saint Rohan? Before Chansu could dwell on the thought, Rohan spoke. Are you the cultivator of the Emperor Apples? Chansu first smiled and greeted him politely. I am O Chansu. You have come all the way here, what brings you? Rohan replied candidly, I am here to buy apples. Inwardly, Chansu assessed him. Straightforward, no hesitation. But he seemed genuinely earnest. How many would he need? He calculated perhaps 100, maybe 200 if possible. Hearing the request, Rohan's eyes widened in astonishment. What? That is impossible. The maximum is 50. That is the limit. The restriction visibly disappointed Rohan. Chansu thought quietly to himself, he looks so glum. But maybe I am just imagining it. They began negotiating the sale. What about the price? Chansu asked. Rohan immediately responded, I know it is 200,000 gold per apple. The price was agreed upon, yet Chansu still hesitated. But we do not offer packaging services here. Rohan waved it off. It is fine, he said. Ah, that is the department store price, he thought, still willing to accept it. I understand, he added. Seeing how accommodating Rohan was, Chansu quietly debated whether he should sell the full 100 apples. Inside the block, the air was calm and still. Meanwhile, Chansu guided Rohan through the apple orchard. As they walked, Chansu mused inwardly, even now, as he moves, his expression does not change a bit. Is this what the composure of a sword saint looks like? Yet beneath that cold exterior, Rohan's inner self betrayed a small longing. Those apples did look incredibly delicious. At that moment, Chansu called out, as I said, 50 apples will do. Just as he prepared to harvest, the system chimed, the blessing of prosperity skill has been activated. Immediately, a single plump apple appeared, dangling temptingly from the tree. Then, as if on cue, a cascade of emperor apples ripened all at once, their branches bending under the weight. Seeing the fruit ready, Chansu reminded himself, I need to harvest these carefully. Just a moment, please. As he prepared to climb and pick the apples, Rohan called out, please step back, leaving Chansu momentarily bewildered. Before he could react, Rohan dashed forward like a flash of lightning. Blades glinted, slicing through the air in dazzling arcs. In an instant, the ripe red apples flew off the branches as if plucked by invisible hands. When the task was complete, Rohan retracted his sword. Watching the apples neatly slide one by one into his bag, Chansu's jaw nearly dropped. At this rate, he is basically hacking reality. Without leaving him waiting long, the system notification popped up, 10 million gold received. Payment completed, Rohan promised, I will return next time. Seeing him ready to depart, Chansu hurriedly called out, wait a moment. Inside, he quietly started formulating a plan. The insects from the previous block were probably manageable. He had already purchased a staff to ward off pests. But he still did not know what the next block would hold. Having Rohan along would be a huge help, especially with his free pass. So Chansu offered, would you be interested in some other produce? I grow them myself, and I am sure you will enjoy them. Rohan remained indifferent. Produce. Chansu began listing them, the potatoes are excellent. Rohan dismissed it coldly. Do not like it. Sweet potatoes. Nope, not interested. I also grow beans. Rohan refused outright. Really do not like it. At that moment, Chansu's inner voice screamed, if he leaves now, it is over. Desperate, he shouted, apples. Fearing the chance would slip away, he quickly added, I will give you more apples. Chansu decided to offer more because, despite Rohan being unusual, he did not seem malicious. He candidly expressed his intentions. To supply the local area steadily, I need to secure another block. He did not hide his request. I would like your help. I will pay you in apples, Mr. Rohan. Seeing Rohan's somber expression, Chansu worried, am I asking too much? After a moment's thought, Rohan spoke. Steady supply, huh? Then he suddenly spun around, making Chansu jump. Rohan held up 2 fingers. Hesitant, Chansu asked, so? 20 apples. Rohan nodded in affirmation, confirming he understood exactly what Chansu wanted. With the deal sealed, Rohan headed off toward a new location. Chansu ran after him, out of breath. He moves so fast. Just how strong is he? Is he truly unbeatable? At the new location, the mud underfoot was fresh and loose. Chansu's mind turned over the thought, the soil here is so fertile. Why is my block so barren? The sticky, muddy ground made moving difficult. Frustrated, he muttered, I should have brought boots. Even so, he did not forget to check on Rohan. Are you okay, Rohan? Just then, Chansu noticed something unusual, a monster. In a flash, Rohan grabbed him and pulled him away from the danger. Once safe, he instructed, stay behind me. It is dangerous. Chansu could not help but think, you are the one who is dangerous here. At the same time, he wondered, was that really a monster? He questioned it because it looked more like vegetation than a beast, though it still had a ferocious appearance. So he decided, it is fine, Rohan. After all, this is the block I am supposed to manage anyway. Then the system notification appeared, tip, you can activate the submerge skill. The idea of this skill made Chansu feel instantly more confident. Leave this to me. Streaks of light shot through the air as the system confirmed, blessing of prosperity skill activated. At another moment, the golden sunlight poured down, illuminating the forest in a warm glow. Somewhere nearby, a voice complained, a familiar voice, her winged sandals. The source of the grumbling was Su Jin. Every time she came here, she got drenched. So annoying. I can't even open the teleport gate myself. Thanks to the winged sandals, she soared through the air, easily avoiding the muddy puddles below. While moving, Su Jin heard someone call her name. Miss Hei Su Jin. She perked up, happily greeting back. Ah, oh Chansu. But then Su Jin froze. Because before her eyes, Rohan, with his cold expression, was tossing soil into the ground alongside Chansu. Seeing this, Su Jin could hardly believe her eyes. What? What is happening? What am I even seeing? Suddenly, someone slowly approached them. Su Jin, surprised, stepped forward and asked, what on earth is going on here? Chansu, cheerful as ever, replied, did not you tell me to claim the neighboring block? I thought I would take a block and at the same time greet you. Hearing this, Su Jin reacted sharply, no, that is not it. She leaned close to Chansu's ear and whispered, no. Why are you going along with that guy? He glanced at her and hummed, well, actually. Suddenly, something struck the massive tree with great force, splitting it down the middle. Chansu forced a smile and stepped forward, finally done. You have been waiting long, have not you? But Rohan remained silent, offering no response. After a moment, he simply said, apples. With a serious tone, Rohan continued, I am curious about the taste of the apples grown here. Chansu smiled brightly and answered, but there is no soil here to grow anything. It is all water everywhere. Without warning, Rohan crouched slightly and swung his sword with a strong motion. Immediately, the layers of soil beneath their feet shifted rapidly to the sides. Chansu gasped, clutching his chest in shock. So this is what it feels like to hack the system. He sat down beside a young sapling, trembling slightly, and said, I guess we will be seeing each other often. So, you can speak freely with me. The notification popped up, Blessing of Prosperity skill has been activated. Chansu scratched his head in naive confusion. Well, that is how it is. But it seemed Su Jin had already lost patience, muttering angrily, how is how it is supposed to make sense? I do not get it at all. She stepped closer to the tall tree, looked up, and asked, so this is the apple tree, right? Instinctively, Su Jin pinched her nose, showing her disgust. It smells weird. No, actually, it smells really strange. Chansu chuckled helplessly. Yeah, it is a bit unusual. He looked up at the plump red apples hanging from the branches and explained, maybe it is the environment. The flavor and aroma of these apples are twice as strong. Depending on where I apply the growth points, the taste can change. So, I am still experimenting. Quickly, Chansu picked an apple and held it out. Do you want to try one? But Su Jin's face darkened. She held her nose and stepped back. No, I do not. Then, she glanced sideways, composed herself, and looked down at the ground with curiosity. So this is the carnivorous plant you captured, right? Chansu froze in surprise at her words. You can call it that. Su Jin sat down and took a test tube from her bag, deep in thought. This kind of monster. She mused, its behavior is like an ostrich. They only move at night and are notoriously hard to catch. She picked up a carnivorous plant and carefully dripped each drop of liquid into the test tube. It is in good condition. But why is it this good? After collecting the droplets, Su Jin held the tube up for closer inspection and asked, Oh Chansu, did you personally hunt all these plants? Yes, that is right, he replied. Then she turned to Rohan, and you did not catch any. Chansu, surprised, stepped closer and asked, No. Is there a problem? Suddenly, a hand shot out with lightning speed and grabbed his hand. Su Jin shouted sharply, Of course you are going to sell them, right? This is not exactly my specialty, but they are worth a lot. Chansu, panicking, stammered, I will sell them, I will sell. He looked helplessly at his poor hand and sighed, Thank goodness it is not broken. Then Su Jin gently turned away, glancing back at Chansu. Chansu, dejected, watched Rohan happily eating an apple and thought to himself, skilled in both combat and cultivation. With a sword saint beside me. From the very first moment, he has been completely extraordinary. And yet, I am genuinely glad I met him. Meanwhile, Su Jin was lost in thought, 100 apples. The sap of the carnivorous plant, and soon, the upcoming harvests. Suddenly, someone called out her name loudly, Miss Su Jin. She jumped in surprise. Yes. What is it? Chansu said gently, the supplies I ordered. I need to plant the insect-repelling plants and build a new house before we go. Her cheeks flushed red as she fumbled through her bag. Ah, right. I will give them to you right away. Just a moment. Soon, Su Jin retrieved several packets of seeds. Here are the insect-repelling plant seeds, and here's the construction kit. Chansu smiled, rolling up his sleeves. Please wait a moment. Across from him stood a small wooden house, a mobile home for explorers alongside insect-repelling plants, pest-fighting chrysanthemums, mint, and catnip. As she walked, Su Jin worriedly thought, all right, the construction kit makes sense. But he is planting these immediately. She stared at Chansu, suspicious. Who is this person really? Inside, small animals played happily. The temple still looked dilapidated, but today marked a historic day. The system notification popped up, do you want to purchase ownership of this block? Immediately, information appeared, Block 36, 10E has been merged with the Prosperity block. Chansu jumped for joy, laughing and playing. Finally. It is officially mine after spending 100 tokens. He sat down, smiling, gently stroking the little creatures, reflecting, the daily purchase limit is 10 tokens, so it took me 10 days. And finally, I am officially the owner, paid entirely with my own money. The blocks appeared clustered together. A typical block costs 100 tokens, ensuring full ownership rights. Chansu lifted his hand and inhaled deeply. In the real world, I can only afford a single room. And yet here. This feels so satisfying. Chansu leaned in, studying the system panel carefully, analyzing each detail. Now that he had purchased the block, new features had been unlocked. Most importantly, the block's attribute system. A tip appeared on the screen. Attributes depend on the nature of the block. Chansu cautiously reached out and touched the panel. According to the suggestion, this block was considered suitable for the goddess. The system then shifted to the next page. Select an attribute to assign to this block: growth, death. Chansu smiled faintly. Of course, this was for our goddess. There was not a moment to waste. He reached out and touched the panel. Growth seemed more advantageous than death. It could further enhance the goddess's development. Immediately, a notification appeared. Growth attribute has been assigned to block 36N, 10E. Chansu surveyed the surroundings. The grass looked a bit greener. Hamdali, the goddess, Ari, and Doji were visibly thrilled, though not much had changed otherwise. Chansu grinned widely, perhaps because it was still level 1. With the system's upgrade functions, it was all the more adorable. He returned to the system panel, tapping through the effects window. Listed were growth for plants, animals, skill growth, and... Suddenly, Chansu tensed, shouting aloud, growth for monsters has appeared. A wild, untamed land seemed to materialize before him. Chansu tightened his grip on the sickle, stepping forward. With such a powerful attribute, there was both good and bad news. The goblins suddenly appeared. The bad news, the immortal goblins had also received the growth effect. His eyes hardened with determination. The good news, there was still an advantage to exploit. Immediately, Chansu lunged forward with a powerful swing. For now, he could still maintain control. Under the scorching sun, wiping the sweat from his brow, he reflected, growth also boosts reward points. Suddenly, someone appeared behind him, wielding a sword. Rohan had silently approached. Chansu, startled, asked, "When did you get here?" Rohan's expression remained cold. "Just now," he replied. Chansu, wearing a blank, innocent expression, asked, "Were not we supposed to drop the formalities?" Rohan ignored him, looking elsewhere. "I am just not used to it yet," he said. Chansu pressed further, bluntly, "Anyway. The fact that you came to find me must mean you finished all the apples, right?" Rohan immediately contradicted him. "Not all of them." Chansu persisted, "But it has not even been a week since you bought the second batch." He fell silent for a moment, concern knitting his brow. Could he eat so many apples that it kills him? Chansu turned around and asked, "So, how many do you need this time?" Rohan kept stride beside him. "As many as possible." "The flavor has shifted a bit due to the block's new attribute. Does that work?" he asked. The apples now carried a slightly different taste. Chansu smiled, glancing back. "I will let you try some for free." Rohan accepted immediately. "Sure," he replied. On a calm afternoon, Hamdali, the goddess, Ari, and Doji were gathered for a picnic, enjoying the quiet serenity. Tiny animals played around them without a care, their joy palpable. Suddenly, footsteps approached. But would their smiles last, given the next event? It was Chansu and Rohan, moving swiftly toward them. Chansu's face lit up with surprise. "Goddess. Why are you all here?" Ari stared intently, curious. "And who is that guy?" Rohan, still casually observing, exuded an unsettling presence. Ari froze, fear widening his eyes. Is he some kind of butcher? Seeing Rohan draw his sword made him recoil in shock. Rohan's expression was terrifyingly serious. "You are lucky. You have got such interesting little pets," he said. Sensing imminent danger, Chansu shouted, "Wait, Rohan." Rohan did not respond. He raised his sword high and swung down with precision. Chansu lunged forward instinctively, shielding the small creatures. He tumbled to the ground, utterly stunned. A single red apple rolled away underfoot. Other apples on the tree began to shake as well. Chansu glanced at Rohan and could not help but smile. So he is harvesting the apples. Announcing it in advance, huh? Still in a protective stance over the little creatures, he noticed Rohan had not yet recognized the goddess, calling them his pets. Rohan continued to swing his sword, harvesting the apples with incredible speed. I am not entirely certain, he said, but I know exactly where they are when I swing. Apples flew around him in a blur. This block. It has the growth attribute, right? Chansu thought. Then Rohan made a surprising proposal. Let me stay here. I will pay while I train. Chansu's eyes widened as he turned to ask, pay? Instinctively, he asked, how much are we talking about? Rohan quickly stated the amount, 9,929,421 per month. Hearing this, Chansu, along with Hamdali, Ari, and Doji, were stunned. Chansu jumped to his feet and hastily shook Rohan's hand, pretending to act composed. Two gleaming eyes betrayed him his mind was already racing with visions of money. Welcome. VIP customer, he said cheerfully. Chansu interlaced his fingers, his heart swelling with emotion as he thought to himself, so buying apples is just like a drop in the ocean compared to the rent for a month it is worth multiple times more. Rohan, standing across from him, suddenly asked, is that okay? Chansu quickly responded, ah. Yes, but only if the Sword Saint trains here. As he spoke, Chansu's mind wandered back to the memory of the ground splitting apart, wondering if it resembled the sky and earth being cleaved in two. He asked tentatively, and Rohan calmly dismissed the thought. No. Chansu grew anxious, waving his arms as he described the possibility of furniture shattering and flying everywhere. Rohan again shook his head. Not like that. Raising an eyebrow, Chansu continued, but I still can't give up the block for you. I do not have extra points. Rohan closed his eyes and turned slightly. No need. Then he stretched out his hand and pointed to the base of a nearby tree. Just give me a decent corner there. Chansu glanced in that direction and was taken aback. Really? Just that much? Rohan nodded immediately. Yes. Placing his hand under his chin, Chansu hesitated for a moment before speaking. Then. All right. But. He looked Rohan straight in the eyes, his expression serious. I actually have another request besides the payment. Placing a hand over his chest, he earnestly proposed, I want to ask you, Rohan, to protect us. In Chansu's mind, an image suddenly appeared, a vibrant tree sprouting among interlocking squares. The nature of this world was to claim blocks, and one never knew when conflict might erupt. Looking down at Rohan, he thought silently, if Sword Saint Rohan the strongest among the strongest protects us, what more could we ask for? Level 100, Sword Saint at level 100. The sum is high, but it is worth it. He lowered his eyes slightly and reminded himself, I have to become a regression simulator after all. At that moment, Rohan suddenly spoke, setting a condition. If you can enhance skill growth effects, I will consider it. Chansu raised both fists and cheerfully stated the specifics. 50,000 points per day, and I will provide 10 apples. Hearing the mention of apples, Rohan's gaze sharpened. Apples can be bought separately, right? Chansu hesitated slightly. Ah. Yes, he answered, though inwardly thinking, how many apples does he eat in a day, anyway? Behind him, Ari fixed a hostile gaze on Chansu, while Doji watched with concern. Ari lifted her tiny wing and chirped a few times. Chirp. What are they saying? Doji, her eyes glistening, replied with a small chirp, upped it. As if acknowledging that Rohan would now live here. Meanwhile, Chansu smiled brightly, thinking to himself, the Sword Saint will protect us. The goddess will surely be happy. But as he turned his head, he caught sight of the small creatures bowing their heads gloomily, all looking inward and subdued. Chansu quickly spoke, startling them. Do you want to say hello? These are my pets. As he called out, a shadow approached, causing the little animals to pale in fear. Come on now, you should greet him too. Rohan, meanwhile, watched them intently, his face cold and emotionless. In the very next moment, the little creatures, frightened, scattered in every direction. Chansu forced a smile and explained, I guess they're just a little timid. Rohan remained silent, deep in thought, saying nothing. Chansu suddenly spoke, causing Rohan to lift his eyes slightly. By the way, Rohan. He smiled and added, I have my first request. A short while later, Chansu's sneakers splashed through a blue puddle, marking block 35N, 9EA carnivorous plant block. Inside that block, Chansu carried a large basket of fruit toward the base of a tree, with Rohan following slowly behind. Chansu glanced at him, noticing how engrossed Rohan was in devouring apples, and sighed inwardly, again with the apples. Moments later, he cheerfully opened the system interface. Anyway, if I purchase the remaining ownership of this block. His long index finger quickly tapped agree on the blue screen, confirming the transaction and turning the land into a prosperity zone. Block 35N, 9E was now officially owned by the god of prosperity, the system announcement ringing out just as Rohan suddenly drew his sword. Chansu whipped his head around, panic flashing across his face. Rohan. Rohan furrowed his brow, alert. Something's here. Chansu followed his gaze, puzzled. Huh, over there. In their focused stare, even the nearby flower bush seemed to respond, subtly confirming their suspicion. The small white flowers swayed gently in the breeze. A plump black cat lay belly up before them, stretching lazily. A cat. Images of Hamdali flashed through Chansu's mind. He thought, I have never seen another creature here. Maybe it is some kind of monster, like a piggy bank type. The black cat, however, continued comfortably hugging the flower bush, licking a leaf or two with apparent pleasure. It did not look dangerous at all. As Chansu stepped forward, Rohan hesitated slightly and called out, "Wait." Chansu smiled softly and scratched the cat's back. "You are even cuter and calmer than I thought." Just then, the black cat froze under Chansu's hand, its wide eyes staring at him blankly. Suddenly, it exploded into a frenzy, leaping and hissing aggressively at the two strangers. The cat bared its teeth, making Chansu shriek in fright and dive behind Rohan in an instant. What has gotten into it? At that very moment, the system interface suddenly popped up. What now? The screen glared intensely at the two of them, never looking away. The doctrine of the god of denial had officially declared war on Block 35N, 9E. Chansu read the announcement and froze, mouth agape. Oh no. I got declared war on just for touching it. Chansu closed his eyes, tears streaming down both cheeks, and spoke up, Rohan. Is this cat an apostle of the god of denial? You really think so? Rohan asked, puzzled. Why are you suddenly saying that? Chansu fidgeted, trying to explain. The apostle of the god of denial has declared war. It must be angry because I touched it without asking. He looked down at the cat, embarrassed, yet the situation was serious. So, a life or death battle with this cat. Rohan turned slightly and shook his head. No, it is not the cat. He glanced at Chansu standing behind him and continued, if a declaration of war has occurred, it means they will start appearing across the block borders soon. And yes, it will be people. Chansu's eyes widened in shock. People. He worried silently, thinking, fighting monsters is one thing, but fighting people. Then Rohan uttered 3 words that made Chansu freeze. You can kill them. Chansu could not believe it. What? Meanwhile, Rohan remained calm, eyes closed, adding, the people of the god of denial can be killed. But do not expect it to be easy. Hearing this, Rohan glanced at him, saying simply, they will respawn at the shrine. Chansu was stunned into silence for several seconds. Respawn, he murmured. Rohan nodded. Yes. Think of it like saving your game. Chansu's anger flared, his face turning red. Respawn, that is ridiculous, one tiny slip and someone dies. But they can just slaughter and respawn, fine. Let them come. Gripping his sickle, determination blazing in his eyes, he turned to Rohan. Rohan. Can you help me fight? Rohan looked at him silently for a moment, then replied, all right. Chansu cleared his throat immediately. Then let us go. At the same time, at the green teleport gate somewhere else, a group of skeletons draped in tattered rags suddenly appeared in the forested block. They carried weapons at the front, while 3 humans emerged behind them from the teleport gate. One of the 3, with tied-up hair, raised a megaphone and shouted, Apple grower of the Empire, show yourself. The scene shifted to a modern city, sunlight reflecting off layers of glass. At the headquarters, Sujin slumped onto a sofa, sighing. It must have happened just like that. Memories of her conversation with Rohan suddenly flooded her mind. I am not entirely sure. At that moment, Sujin, recalling Chansu, quietly asked herself, but is Chansu really that formidable? Meanwhile, Rohan seemed to have misunderstood her meaning and immediately associated it with apples, replying, it is. Really special. Su Jin bit her lip anxiously, thinking to herself, customer Oh Chan Su is a powerhouse recognized by the Sword Saint. How could someone be so skilled with a sword and yet so adept at farming? Images of Chan Su wielding his sickle flashed in her mind. To the outside eye, he looked like he was only in his late 20s, yet he had mastered so many different skills to their maximum potential. Su Jin narrowed her eyes, pondering. Unless he is someone who came from the 2nd or 3rd grade summoning and was rejuvenated. The most recent event was the 5th. Then it really is. Her thoughts immediately linked to a new concept that jumped into her mind. Divine artifacts. Divine artifacts are objects created for those close to gods, or relics of deceased deities, which allow the wielder to borrow divine power from them. She crossed her arms, full of question marks in her head. But if one is not compatible with a god, it would be difficult to wield a divine artifact. Finally, she slumped back, exhausted. I do not know. What is going to happen now? Su Jin muttered with a faint, calm smile, and now he says he lives with the Sword Saint. Really? Just then, a loud explosion suddenly reverberated through the room. Startled, she looked toward the newcomer, smoke and dust swirling wildly throughout the space. Un Su appeared, disheveled, frowning as he pushed back his bangs. Then he abruptly cast a sharp, pale violet gaze toward Su Jin. Su Jin's eyes widened in fear. What? What is going on? Did he just look at me? Why is he coming this way? Suddenly, Un Su thrust an experimental vial toward her, making her flinch in surprise. She peered at the bright liquid near the bottom of the vial and realized that. Is not this the sap from the carnivorous plant I brought back? Un Su's eyes widened angrily as he shouted, where exactly did you take this from? Su Jin, caught off guard by his sudden outburst, immediately burst into tears, her nose running along with her tears. That is. She wailed silently in her heart. What is happening now? Suddenly, a glowing blue teleportation circle appeared. From it, a group of skeleton-like soldiers stepped out. Behind them, a cluster of mysterious figures emerged, their faces obscured and indistinct. Chan Su and Rohan were hiding behind some bushes at this point. Chan Su, wary, whispered, they are here to scout us out, right? The swordmaster friend, casually munching on a gigantic apple, shrugged. Who knows? Chan Su's mind raced with anxiety, already imagining the worst-case scenario. What if the undead have acquired some form of civilization? The thought made him shiver. The group in front of him shouted frantically, it is modern civilization, catch it, and Chan Su shook his head, trying to calm himself. This is ridiculous. It can't be real. Lost in his thoughts, a loud, commanding voice rang out. Apple-growing emperor, show yourself. The man with the tied-up hair, who had just stepped out of the teleportation circle, advanced further into the flooded area with his companions. He frowned in annoyance, lifting one leg. Why is this area submerged in water? Then, raising a megaphone, he demanded, come out and help ensure mutual benefits for both sides. Chan Su stared blankly, trying to comprehend the situation. What? What is this? Why are not they defending themselves? He tried to reason with himself. Perhaps they are just doing what they want. After all, they are strong. Rohan beside him gave a slight nod in agreement, as if confirming this line of thought. Chan Su continued to ponder, frustrated by how little information he had. But I do have some. He glanced at the figure behind him, a reassuring presence that seemed to radiate light. Rohan. Thinking of that, he gradually calmed down. Even if things get worse, it will be fine. Right, I am putting all my trust in you. Meanwhile, the man with the tied-up hair at the front suddenly paused, staring ahead. He looked toward Chan Su, incredulous, muttering to himself, what is going on? Is he alone? His gaze drifted downward to Chan Su's hand, noting the gleaming, sharp sickle. A frown creased his brow. What is that side? Then he scowled and barked out an order. Are you the master here? Stop wasting time and bring out the Apple Emperor. Hearing this, Chan Su's grip on the sickle tightened. The undead advanced to protect their master, while the man with the tied-up hair stepped back in confusion, raising his voice. Do not I have more people than this? What are you going to do with that old scythe? Chan Su remained silent, carefully observing the situation and counting their numbers. They were not summoning any additional undead, nor did they show any signs of preparing a long-range attack. The man with the tied-up hair was losing patience. When Chan Su did not answer, he snapped angrily, "We are the disciples of the god of denial, those who torment others to death." Chan Su, smiling warmly, explained calmly, "I was worried because you are supposedly the largest faction here, but it seems you are just a bunch of thugs leaning on your connections." The group froze, stunned by the audacity of the farmer before them. In Chan Su's mind, confidence surged. "The god of denial is far beyond my power, but the sword saint is right here." The tied-up hairman's face darkened further, his teeth gritted as he spat, "This is your last chance. Bring out the Apple Emperor now, or else." Chan Su, unfazed, replied coolly, "If you want apples, you should go to a general store. Why come here to make trouble?" The man, losing control, growled, "Are you ready to face the consequences?" Chan Su, serious yet mocking, shot back, "You ask a lot of questions. If you want someone who can answer all your questions, go ask my mother." Then, pretending to be surprised, he added, "Oh. Sorry." His words hit the tied-up hairman like a slap across the face. "She is not in this world anyway. Right?" As the man trembled with anger, the undead whispered among themselves, "Insulting his mother. That is too much, just because we invaded. That is too cruel." Confused, Chan Su exclaimed, "Huh." Suddenly, realization struck him. Panicked, he explained, "Wait, no, that is not what I meant. I meant the world. She could not possibly be affected by the same world. That is all I meant, and so does she." The tied-up hairman, red-faced with fury, bellowed, "Kill him." The undead, still whispering, murmured, "Clearly, it is self-defense." Chan Su, nearly desperate, tried to explain, "No, I really did not mean that." The scene shifted to Un Su and Su Jin. He stepped close to her, his expression pleading. "Please, just tell me one thing." He held up a glass vial containing a luminous liquid and demanded, "This resin. Did Rohan collect it?" Su Jin, startled, stepped back and stammered, "No. No, it was not him." Un Su's expression remained serious as he pressed further, "So it was someone else." She hesitated, flustered, "Ah, well." Then he calmed slightly, continuing in a composed tone, "Client information is confidential by nature. My apologies." He straightened, maintaining a respectful distance from Su Jin, the sincerity in his voice clear. "I asked an unnecessary question." Un Su then raised another point, "In that case, there won't be any additional fees, right?" Su Jin nodded, a little uncertain. "Ah. Yes, probably." His face was a bit disheveled now, but he still managed a bright smile as he said, "Lucky for you, we are not capable of continuing to accept supplies at labor prices." His pale lavender eyes gleamed with calculation, silently thinking, "I absolutely will not let this slip out of my control." Then Un Su spoke to Su Jin, no cooldown, as she already knew. The carnivorous resin had a high degradation rate, making it extremely difficult to maintain its purity, not to mention how challenging it was to harvest. He then held up a vial containing a glowing pink liquid. "However, the resin you brought back can maintain a higher level of purity than anything we have ever seen before." Un Su reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a stack of papers. "I do not know how you managed to collect it, but..." He set the papers down on her desk and asked, "Could you continue supplying it to us?" Su Jin, holding the documents, read through them and replied cautiously, "I will need to check first, but perhaps it is possible." Hearing that, Un Su immediately suggested, "Then let us sign a temporary contract at least for now." She looked up at him and continued, "And..." He winked, a mischievous glint in his eye, smiling as he added, "Tell that person the alchemists will always welcome them." Back with Chan Su, he was now being assaulted from all sides by the undead. The man with the tied-up hair, furious, shouted, "Execute those who dare mock the god of denial and our pride." Chan Su, defending himself while struggling to speak, explained, "I told you, I did not mean that," but deep down, he realized that reasoning with them would probably achieve nothing. He would have to clear them out first. Seeing Chan Su's unwavering attitude only made the tied-up hairman angrier. Why is he so confident, he wondered. Just as the fight was about to begin, the farmer suddenly asked, "By the way, all these undead, were they mass-produced in the same factory?" No sooner had he spoken than he activated his skill slashes after slashes, decapitating the undead in a sweeping arc. Each strike was precise, cutting through the necks of the approaching skeletons with terrifying efficiency. After completing the technique, he even twirled the scythe on a single finger with remarkable finesse. Having finished the battle, his confidence surged. Perfect for practicing skills, he thought. The tied-up hair man, shocked at Chan Su's power, screamed, "This is impossible." But when he looked up at the sky, skulls and shattered fragments rained down. His face drained of color as he froze in place. In an instant, the skeletons collapsed to the ground, leaving him utterly stunned. His once expressive face now drained of life. He whispered, "What is this?" Chan Su placed his foot on one of the fallen skeletons and commented, "They are much weaker than I expected, probably because they are nothing but bones." The farmer, still smiling amicably, asked, "So, are you going to surrender?" The man with the tied-up hair gritted his teeth and cursed, "Useless trash." But then he pulled out a mysterious purple ring, muttering, "I admit, I did not expect I would have to summon this thing, but..." The moment the gem on the ring shattered, he yelled, "You should feel honored." In an instant, a massive magical circle appeared on the ground, accompanied by a shout, "Summon Hercules." From the enormous circle, a dark figure emerged, so towering that Chan Su had to tilt his head back to see it. The man, seeing this, immediately looked smug. "Kuhaha. How do you like Hercules?" Before him appeared a monstrous titan, a bizarre fusion with one human head and one lion's head. Yet, unlike what he had expected, Chan Su calmly remarked, "This is nothing like I imagined. I am sure there'll be a lawsuit for defamation of reputation." The man, pointing and shouting, barked, "Do not insult my masterpiece. This is the ultimate weapon, forged with 30 million gold and 100,000 points." He then commanded, "Rip him apart." Hercules, the monstrous titan, charged at Chan Su immediately. At this moment, Chan Su, distracted by his thoughts, calculated, 30 million gold and 100,000 points, Yet he was able to think and dodge the titan's attack simultaneously. Roughly equivalent to 200 king apple blocks, he mused. The titan kept lunging at him, making strange guttural sounds with each strike. In one move, it bent down, attempting to crush Chan Su under its immense weight. Chan Su smiled and said, "How convenient of you to bow down yourself." In a flash, a white streak of light sliced across the titan's neck. It was Chan Su's doing, a swift, effortless execution of the monstrous creature, not a drop of his energy wasted. Watching the titan collapse, the tied-up hairman trembled and yelled, "Impossible. My Hercules." As the creature disintegrated, Chan Su added fuel to the fire. "Oh, 10 years of effort." The man with the tied-up hair suddenly spun around and called out. A confident woman with purple hair snapped back angrily, "Why are you just standing there staring? Things have already gone this badly. This guy is..." It was Kim Su-ji, 4th-generation disciple of the god of denial. She sneered, "You are the one who confidently stepped forward, now you complain." Annoyed, she glanced around, muttering, "What a hassle. Well, this counts as overtime, right? My role is just a guide." Meanwhile, Chan Su, slightly suspicious, wondered to himself, "Is it really over? Even I might struggle in phase 3. The moment he lifted his head, Chan Su froze, startled by the figure standing before him. He studied the woman's cold, unyielding face and muttered, "I thought you were just a minor character." Her eyes blazed a fiery red, immediately flaring as she glared at him, as if trying to dominate his very presence. Chan Su instantly sensed that something was off. At the same time, a yellow warning flashed before the purple-haired woman's excited face. "Tip. Opponent is using the skill negation of life to curse the target." His face drained of energy, and his eyes reflected his weariness, yet he forced out a word, "Ah. So you really are an important character." Finally, the system reminded him, a sharp warning echoing in his mind, "Danger detected." After activating her skill, Su-ji was surrounded by a dark, ominous aura, which surged toward Chan Su, leaving him drained and collapsing to the ground, his body trembling uncontrollably. The gang leader struggled to stand, a satisfied grin spreading across his face as he taunted, "That is right. You should have thought twice before acting. This is the consequence of daring to insult the followers of negation." Chan Su felt his entire body heavy and lethargic, unable to move, his mind foggy and drifting. Seizing the opportunity, the gang leader clicked his tongue and dashed forward, loudly proclaiming, "Wait up. I will avenge Hercules immediately." Gentle sunlight filtered through the lush green leaves above. The gang leader ran along the muddy path, glancing around, sniffing the air, and thinking to himself, the faint scent of emperor apples. So this is where the old army had been. It was only a matter of time before he found them. Stepping off the muddy road, he reached a drier area, densely covered with trees and foliage. Suddenly, Rohan flickered in and out of sight, moving stealthily behind him. The rustling of the bushes drew the gang leader's attention. He paused, sensing something amiss. Alert, he spun around, scanning the surroundings tensely, shouting, "Who is there?" While he fumbled, suspicious that someone might be hiding nearby, Rohan launched into the air to avoid being seen. The gang leader caught another unusual sound and instinctively looked up toward its source. Rohan was now rushing straight at him. The gang leader's eyes widened in horror. Red hair. And a black sword. No way. It did not take long for him to realize the attacker was Rohan himself. Before he could react, Rohan struck a powerful blow to his head, sending him reeling. Meanwhile, in the center of a distant city, tall buildings crowded the streets, bustling with people. Chan Su slowly regained consciousness. Confused, he held his head in his hands, groaning, "My head." He sat there dazed for a moment, scanning the cityscape, bewildered. What just happened? I was fighting the followers of negation. His hand instinctively brushed the ground beneath him. Whispering in confusion, he muttered, "This place." Only then did he turn, looking down at the streets below. Shocked, he shouted, "This is Earth, is not it? The place where I used to pull weeds." Pulling himself together, Chan Su hurried to his feet. Two children raced past him, laughing and playing, which only deepened his worry. The scenery here was unlike the Earth he remembered. Even the children looked different. As he wandered, lost in thought, a familiar voice called out, "Oh, Chan Su." Instinctively, Chan Su turned to look. In a daze, Chan Su saw two familiar figures smiling at him. The woman's voice carried both reproach and worry as she asked, "Where have you been, child? Your mother has been so worried about you." Looking at the two figures before him, Chan Su could hardly believe his eyes. Tears welled up uncontrollably as his voice faltered, choked with emotion, "Mom. Dad." Unable to wait any longer, he bolted toward them. He wrapped his arms tightly around his parents, crying like a child, his voice trembling as he repeated, "Mom. Dad." Chan Su sobbed without pause, tears streaming freely down his face, choking out, "I missed you. I missed you so much. Where have you been all these years?" Then, hastily, he asked, "You won't leave again, right?" But the woman's arm, which had been resting on him, suddenly slipped away. His father turned his face to the side, avoiding him, while the woman gently pushed him back. Neither of them answered. Chan Su froze in shock, calling out, "Mom." Tears still streaking his cheeks, his body trembling, he rasped, "Where are you going?" Yet they remained indifferent, walking away and leaving him alone, powerless. Screaming desperately, "No. Do not go. Do not leave. Do not abandon me." Chan Su reached out, trying to grab them, but their forms receded farther and farther, fading into the distance. A hand shook him awake. Chan Su jolted from the heart-wrenching dream, tears still streaming down his face. His complexion was pale, and he panted heavily, still caught in the lingering pain of the illusion. Rohan placed a hand on his shoulder, speaking softly to reassure him, it was only her illusion. "Calm down." As he spoke, Rohan gently patted Chan Su, helping him regain some composure. Chan Su stopped crying, but his mind had yet to fully settle. Seeing this, Rohan turned away. Su Ji had collapsed, wincing and clutching her injured arm, bewildered, thinking to herself, why would the sword saint be in a place like this? Suddenly, Chan Su rose to his feet, gripping a sharp rake in his hand, and slowly approached her. Though his body still trembled, his eyes were filled with a mix of grief and anger. Yet he could not bring himself to strike Su Ji. From behind, Rohan had not interfered, simply standing there, quietly resting a hand on the hilt of his sword, ready. Suddenly, Rohan stomped on the muddy ground to gain momentum. He dashed past Chan Su, surging toward Su Ji. Seeing this, she panicked, shouting, "Wait!" Chan Su squeezed his eyes shut, too frightened to watch. Su Ji was struck unconscious by Rohan, sinking slowly into the consuming mud. She was swallowed by the swamp, only the top of her head faintly visible as Rohan retracted his sword. He spoke calmly to Chan Su, "Did I go too far?" Chan Su wiped the last traces of tears from his lashes and said sincerely, "No. Thank you, Rohan." Then he glanced at the mess scattered across the ground and steadied himself before asking, "Let us head back for now, okay? We can clean all this up later." Rohan did not answer his question. Instead, he asked back, "What is the plan from here?" Chan Su responded honestly, telling him exactly what he intended. "We are going to become the strongest force in the world. First, we will conquer every nearby territory." After saying that, he hesitated before asking, "Can I continue relying on your help?" Rohan agreed, but with a condition. Additional compensation. You can pay in apples. Receiving that acceptance, Chan Su relaxed and brightened immediately. "Thanks, whenever I need something, I will call you. I will give you lots of apples." The two returned to the small house with the thin chimney. Suddenly, Chan Su noticed something and could not hide his surprise. He saw the black cat, the apostle of injustice, lying on the ground, rolling lazily, rubbing itself in the dirt as it enjoyed the sunlight. Chan Su hurriedly said, "I almost forgot." He bent down slightly and happily observed the cat before asking Rohan with genuine curiosity, "So, that cat? Who exactly is it? It is adorable." Rohan answered seriously, "It is a territory hunter. One of the 7 calamities." Looking at the round, black cat cutely sticking out its little tongue while licking a leaf. Then pairing that image with Rohan's words, Chan Su froze as if someone had sprayed him with glue. The rake slipped from his hand, and he nearly stopped breathing. His face went pale as he shouted in disbelief, "What, a calamity?" Meanwhile, in a dark prison cell, the same gang leader from earlier sat before his system screen as a notification appeared, "We have lost the challenge match. Based on the results, penalties will now be applied. Due to the overwhelming power difference between you and the god of negation, an additional fine has been imposed. Please pay compensation amounting to 1 billion gold." Lines of text cascaded rapidly across the holographic display. Seeing the disastrous news, the gang leader trembled with fury, gripping the iron bars until they rattled, grinding his teeth as he growled, "Lies!" He shouted back at the system in frustration, "It is because of the power gap. The other side even had the Sword Saint." But the cold screen responded with only 2 words, "Request denied." Then another message appeared, "As the involved parties are unable to pay, the compensation will be transferred as a debt owed to the god of negation." Hearing that, the gang leader yelled, "Wait!" He reached out through the bars, desperately trying to grab the hovering display, but his hands passed through empty air. Left with no other option, he screamed in hopeless desperation, "No, I will pay no matter what it takes." Suddenly, he froze in place. Fear made him shrink back as he saw 2 skeletal figures appear outside his prison cell. They stepped in. One brought a chair, while the other restrained him. No matter how much he screamed, "Let go! Let go!" they refused to release him. At that moment, a pair of long legs in high heels approached. A sharp, acidic voice scolded, "If you were ashamed, then make it certain." Muttering under his breath, the gang leader, now restrained and kneeling on the floor, looked up to see who had entered. He stammered, "Why you? Why are you here?" Choi Dan Ha, the 4th generation apostle of the god of negation, arrogantly took a seat in the chair. She glanced down at him and threatened, "You better explain exactly what happened. If you do not want to experience something far worse than death." She smiled wickedly, staring straight at him. He carefully observed her expression and replied cautiously, "The royal apples. I found the orchard of the royal apples." But Choi Dan Ha was not so easily convinced. She eyed him with suspicion and asked, "That is not a lie to save your own skin, is it?" The gang leader anxiously tried to prove himself, raising his voice, "It is true. Rohan the royal apple fanatic was there too." Yet Choi Dan Ha refused to believe him. Judging by the results, if even the Sword Saint had fought, the compensation would not be at this level, would it? The gang leader floundered, not knowing how to explain, words tumbling out in confusion. "I am telling the truth, the one who defeated the undead is a disciple of—" Of course, Choi Dan Ha interrupted. "So Kim Soo-ji lost too, huh?" Standing, she mocked him, "Kim Soo-ji. She was there as well." She slowly approached him, continuing her sarcastic tirade. Clearly, she had been participating as a mercenary, perhaps as an instructor. "It is unfortunate, but you are not responsible for this incident," she said. pausing briefly before letting out a low, amused chuckle. Her eyes glinted with malice as she told him, "At least you have tasted the pain of death firsthand. That alone satisfies me." Then, she reached out, cupping his face in her hand. Casually, she added, "I just had a thought. If they are farming, then those two must be severely understaffed, right?" As she spoke, she squeezed his face, and the system's voice rang out. "The god of negation requests negotiation with." But Choi Dan-ha, her tone dark and playful, handed the gang leader a new task: take everyone and make them repay using their own labor. The mechanical voice announced once more, "Until negotiations conclude, the losing party will become prisoners." Choi Dan-ha withdrew her hand from his face. The gang leader shouted, demanding reasoning. "What do you mean? There is no way outsiders could be in the royal apple orchard." Choi Dan-ha had no interest in hearing his meaningless protests. With sly cunning, she tempted him, "But the truth is they are there. Are not you curious?" Hearing her, the gang leader immediately sensed something was wrong. His face went pale as he stared at her. Choi Dan-ha had no intent to persuade him. She was issuing an order. Her voice was deceptively gentle, yet each word carried a terrifying threat, hinting at what it would be like if a human were transformed into an undead. "If you do not want to experience it yourself." She trailed off, idly playing with a strand of hair by his temple. Several seconds later, she finally spoke coldly, "Then, by all means, go inside. That is my command." It was an order he could not refuse. It had to be carried out. No one could resist a kitten. Chansu, practically bouncing with excitement, asked, "Then, what exactly is the identity of that cat? It is so adorable." Rohan's voice was calm, almost indifferent, as he replied, "It is one of the 7 calamities." Chansu froze. He could not believe it. This tiny little creature, playing with blades of grass, was a territorial predator. The sickle in his hand slipped from his grip, clattering to the ground as his mind struggled to process the revelation. His face twisted in sheer disbelief and awe. "What? One of the calamities?" He quickly paled and ducked behind a corner to observe the black kitten licking its paws. "Are we going to be okay?" he asked, still trying to keep his composure. Rohan, standing calmly nearby, reassured him, "We will be fine." If it had hostile intent, something would have happened already. Chansu's worry was not fully eased. But what if it actually does have bad intentions? Rohan explained softly, "If it did, it would have devoured our territorial rights already." Chansu nearly choked on his own disbelief. "Wait. What? Devour our territory rights, that is? Something it can even eat?" He hurriedly opened his system interface to check the status of his territory. Once confirmed intact, he exhaled a sigh of relief. At least it had not eaten it. So why was it here in the first place? Rohan, munching loudly on a massive apple, added, "It is probably here to eat cat grass." Chansu glanced anxiously at the tiny black kitten. "But it is a cat, is not it?" To his astonishment, the calamity began devouring all the cat grass voraciously. "Huh. It is really tiny now." "Impossible." Tentatively, Chansu extended a hand toward one of the drooping leaves to see what would happen. As a result, his blooming ability flourished spectacularly, a blessing of prosperity. The territorial predator's eyes sparkled brilliantly, surrounded by countless vibrant flowers. It approached and rubbed against Chansu's pants, as if acknowledging him. He felt the intensity of its gaze as it flipped onto its back. Was it inviting him to touch it? Bewildered, he reached out and gently stroked its soft fur, an entirely different sensation from touching the massive, smooth handle. Even so, Chansu reminded himself to stay vigilant. He could not be fooled by its cute appearance. After all, it was a calamity, so it must have a fearsome form as well. While pampering and scratching its chin, he whispered softly, coaxing it, "If you protect this area, I will let you eat all the cat grass you want. How's that?" The kitten let out a tiny approving meow. Chansu then turned to consult the expert, Rohan. "Looks like we will be living together for quite some time. What should I call you from now on?" Rohan, having finished his apple, cleared his throat. Territorial predator is too long a name. So Chansu decided to simplify its name, shortening it to Yongshik. The kitten immediately fluffed up and protested vigorously. Chansu immediately conjured a small bundle of cat grass as a suggestion. "How about we call you Dacheo?" This time, the kitten did not growl, only flicked its tail. Was it asking for an explanation? It was acting more human than human itself. Chansu took a moment, then slowly and poetically continued, "Your fur is as beautiful as a starry night sky. And your eyes. They remind me of the shining moon. How does that sound?" The kitten let out a soft, tiny meow and licked his hand in apparent agreement. Da Cheo seemed pleased with the new name, as if the matter had been peacefully settled. Rohan, having been dismissed by the previous name, smirked faintly. What is wrong with Yongshik anyway? Chansu was at a loss for words for this strange creature. Do you really understand what I meant? Suddenly, the system's notification chimed. You have won the battle. As a victory privilege, you are awarded compensation of 1 billion. 1 billion. Chansu could not help but want to boast to Rohan immediately. Hey, Rohan, the compensation is 1 billion. But the system was not done. Another message popped up. The god of negation has requested negotiation. Until the negotiation concludes, the losing party will be detained as prisoners. The money, not yet in his hands, had already been revoked. Chansu grumbled in frustration. What, my 1 billion? Give it back. That night, peace settled over their greenhouse, the stars above casting a soft glow. Chansu could not sleep. Sitting up, he looked at the little ones nearby. His voice, low and soft, carried gently through the still air. Goddess. When I first came here, I was scared, worried about so many things. But thanks to you all, I have had a truly happy time here. He murmured to himself, reflecting on the day's events. In truth, he had seen his parents today. Chansu's heart was a tangle of bittersweet emotions. Even if it was only an illusion conjured by the curse, it had made him genuinely happy. At that moment, he felt joy from the very depths of his being. Perhaps he missed them more than he had realized. He clenched his fists, feeling time itself in his hands, and made a decision. Chansu promised himself and the goddess that he would turn prosperity into the greatest power in the world. He tilted his head, glancing at the radish plant sleeping peacefully beside him. His voice, tinged with emotion and sorrow, made a quiet vow, I will help you regain your original form. I promise. The goddess, drowsily, wrapped her arms around his hand, the corner of her eye glistening with tears. Until Chansu was abruptly confronted with frustration early the next morning. Rohan. Are you really going to do that? He hated that he could not just press him down and snap his head off. How could he even keep living like this? A steaming hot meal sat before Rohan, but he did not touch any of it, not a bite. Just apples, was that all he ate? Chansu could not just sit there and watch him fend for himself like that. Do not you know anything about protein, fats, and carbs? A balanced diet is essential, he scolded. But Rohan just hugged his apple and turned away. I am not planning to steal it, he said calmly. Chansu let out a helpless sigh, collapsing into his chair in exasperation. The other little creatures were happily nibbling on their own food. There were so many delicious things in the world. But seeing Rohan gnawing on his apple so contentedly, Chansu boiled with frustration. He did not even bother thinking about eating anything else. Rohan glanced up at Chansu, who was holding his head in dismay, and muttered, Oh, heavens. Suddenly, a skewer with a piece of apple was pushed toward him. Rohan pretended to be reluctant to share. Just one piece, no more, he said. I am not doing this because I want to eat it. Fine, take it, I planted these apples myself, Chansu shouted. He realized he could not force Rohan to eat what he wanted. Forget it. Why am I even worrying about him? He is the sword saint, he can take care of himself, he muttered. Rohan, seeing this, nibbled his apple in peace. If you do not eat it, I will, he said. Chansu turned to check on the little creatures. Everyone's eating well, right? Before he could finish, he saw the little ones lying on their backs with full bellies. Right. He bent down to ask the goddess gently, and you? Are you enjoying it? His words were met with sheer shock from those present. He felt a little guilty for addressing her like that. Rohan still did not know the goddess's true identity, so maybe she would forgive him for being a bit casual. But she remained completely stone-faced. Ari toddled forward, scolding furiously. How dare you speak disrespectfully to the goddess? Then came a barrage of chaotic insults. You think just because you got good points you can do whatever you want now? Chansu chose to ignore it. I will explain later, he whispered to himself. He tried to calm the scattered emotions of the little ones. Stay calm, everyone, stay calm. Meanwhile, Rohan relaxed, sipping on his pure emperor apple juice. A little grunt sounded from a piglet behind the annoyed Ari. Wait a second. The piglet pushed its glasses up with an air of scholarly mystery, trying to deduce the situation. Could it be that the apostle did this on purpose? Ari, still skeptical, tilted its head behind its tiny glasses. What are you talking about? Where did those cups even come from? It waved its short arms in disbelief. You are really foolish, that sword saint does not even know who the goddess truly is. Doji, with an air of intellect, pointed out the peculiarity. But the apostle spoke formally to the goddess was not that just digging his own grave. The tiny chicken's wing suddenly shot forward and grabbed a fistful of the piglet's thick, pudgy cheek. Ari's expression turned frighteningly menacing as it growled, try using that mocking tone one more time. The moment the glasses slipped off, Doji's intelligence plummeted. I want an apple, it mumbled. Curious, Ari put the glasses back on Doji, and immediately its face shifted back to that arrogant, snobbish attitude. Could you please overlook this matter and speak like a gentleman? But as soon as the glasses came off again, it turned into a clueless, empty-headed simpleton. Apple. Without hesitation, Ari beat the little pig senseless and smashed the glasses to pieces. Chansu stood up, leaving the chaos behind, and turned to Rohan with a pushy tone. Can we go now? The goddess's eyes glistened with tears when she realized he was about to leave. Miss Hei Sujin will arrive here soon, she murmured. Before heading out, he offered a gentle reminder. All right then. Take good care of the house, okay. He noticed the goddess frantically waving her hands at him. The goddess, huh? Chansu scratched his head awkwardly, unsure what to say. I did not mention the battle because I thought she would forbid me from going out. But she already knew everything. I guess that Skuld transmitted the news again. Even so, he could not delay any longer. He bent down and patted her head. I will be back right away. Can you wait for me a little? Rohan cleared his throat loudly when he saw how affectionate Chansu was acting. He spoke in a serious tone, eyes fixed on Chansu. There is something I want to tell you. Chansu followed him aside, puzzled. What is it? A new piece of information was dropped on him. Time flowed differently in every world. Even between Earth and this place, the passage of time was not the same. Rohan's expression was unreadable, but his sincerity was unmistakable. So do not be too impatient, all right? That reassurance brought Chansu a sense of peace. He smiled, relieved. Thanks for everything. Now we really are leaving, right? Even then, the corner of his eye drifted back toward the little one staying behind in the house. The goddess, tearful and sniffling, waved at him along with the others. Suddenly, Chansu had a brilliant idea. Hamdal, you are coming with us too, right? He reached into his spatial pocket and pulled something out. Did you think I bought this just for decoration? Hamdal ran toward him with bright, sparkling eyes full of expectation. It was a breathable hamster sphere made specifically so owners could carry their beloved hamsters around anywhere they wanted. Want to keep your hamster with you at all times? No need to worry anymore. This adorable carrying capsule lets you explore the world together. Once everything was set up, Hamdal hopped inside the carrier, bouncing with excitement. All right, now we can go. They bid farewell to their safe little territory and stepped out to explore the world beyond. It was time to expand their domain. The door opened, bridging two entirely different dimensions. Chansu stepped through, his face full of awe at the sheer wonder before him. He gazed at the simple, modern door still standing ajar, and beyond it, the night sky glittered with countless stars. Now, he thought to himself, even without a travel pass or Rohan, getting around won't be a problem anymore. This door is truly amazing. At that moment, a voice called out, drawing his attention. You have arrived, huh? Soft sunlight bathed Hei Su-jin as she knelt on one knee, gently stroking the back of the black cat. I heard you fought the null deity, she said, relief evident in her voice. I am so glad you are safe. Chansu smiled brightly at the sight of her. Oh, you came early, he said cheerfully, raising a hand toward Rohan, who had just stepped through the door behind him. Thanks to Rohan's help, things were not as difficult as I expected. Su-jin's eyes went wide in disbelief as Chansu continued. He even agreed to handle security for a while. Her voice dropped to a whispered, incredulous tone. Wait. How come you two are here together? Chansu glanced casually at Rohan, who was lazily munching on an apple beside him, and answered, "Rohan and I decided to live together for the time being." She sighed, placing a hand on her forehead in resigned amusement. "I had a feeling this would happen. But I did not expect it to turn out like this. You really do keep surprising everyone." Su Jin's gaze shifted to the black cat curled affectionately at her feet. Changing the subject, she asked, "By the way, where did you bring this little one from?" Chansu introduced it with a grin. "It came here on its own. Its name is Da Thien." Su Jin froze for a moment when he presented the transparent sphere, containing Hamdali. Her eyes widened. "It is real," she murmured. Quickly, she approached and greeted the little hamster. "You are clever, Hamdali. You are here too." Chansu chuckled, watching her interact with the tiny creature. "Yeah, it is extremely clever." In his mind, he recalled that moment when the creatures burrowed underground. Hamdali was smart enough to understand that if it devoured the core of a territory, the decisive element of the catnip field, then the entire field would be destroyed. Chansu gently placed Hamdali's glass sphere on the ground. Su Jin, standing beside him, elaborated with a hint of admiration. "A monster that is both smart and adorable like this is rare. If you caught it and sold it, many people would want it." Chansu replied while watching Hamdali roll the sphere over to Da Thien. "Well, that might be a bit difficult." The little hamster zipped over excitedly. Da Thien, holding a leaf in its mouth, glanced at Hamdali without much interest. Su Jin shrugged reassuringly. "If it is too tricky to find, just set up a little dungeon. The monsters will gather in there automatically." Chansu's eyes widened in realization. "Ah. So that is another way to use it." A vision formed in his mind, dark, confused monsters looking around, wondering where everyone had gone. He stroked his chin thoughtfully. "Currently, we have 443 loyal customers. Surely, there are still many more outside. This might come in handy later." Chansu turned to Su Jin. "Anyway, since it came from another region, this might be a little tricky." Su Jin's eyes widened with curiosity. "Another region, from where?" Chansu replied, "It came here on its own, so I am not really sure either." Su Jin's face paled slightly. "Wait. Could it be a person transformed into a cat?" Chansu explained, oblivious to the fact that Da Thien was now drooling over Hamdali's glass sphere. According to Rohan, Da Thien was a territory-devouring creature. Su Jin, engrossed in conversation with Chansu, barely noticed the scene unfolding and asked again, "A territory-devouring creature?" The tiny hamster flinched at the words, while Chansu's voice carried across. "Yes, that is right." Su Jin's curiosity deepened. "Really? There is a monster with a name like that?" Meanwhile, Da Thien's expression was terrifying. Its mouth dripped saliva, and one paw pressed onto the glass sphere, leaving Hamdali utterly terrified. Chansu recalled that it was not just any monster, it was one of the 7 great calamities. Su Jin laughed in surprise. "Aha, so it is the territory devourer." Suddenly, she grabbed Chansu's wrist. Tears streamed down her face as she dragged him swiftly to another spot, shouting loudly alongside him, "Why? Why is one of the 7 great calamities here?" The two of them leapt into a patch of tall grass. Su Jin flung him aside, sending Chansu sprawling onto the ground, panicking as she yelled, "It even says here that it does not just devour territory, it can destroy entire regions. My ostrich-feathered tail. Why would something like this show up here?" Chansu sighed, propping himself up. "Ah. Well, for now, we think it came because of the catnip." Su Jin gave him a puzzled look. "But it is not really a cat. Why would it stay just for the catnip?" Chansu scratched his head, giving an honest guess. "I do not know the full story either, but that seems to be the case." He went on to explain. "To claim a territory, you normally need at least 200,000 points." He looked toward the sprawling catnip patch. Blessings scattered across it had cost less than 10,000 points. Chansu continued, "So, on the surface, it seems like a 20-fold difference. But the absorption efficiency depends on the form. If you place the two side by side, the disparity becomes very clear. For example, if the ratio is 1 to 90, for Da Thien, this area would be worth 2,000 points, while the catnip would be worth 9,000 points over 3 times the difference. One of his hands pressed against the thick tree root behind him. Of course, that was not an exact ratio, and nobody really knew if it was even accurate. Chan-su pushed himself up from the ground. But as the chosen one, I really do not have any other options. Su-jin looked at him in alarm. It will be okay, right? I do not want to come back one day and find everything gone. Chan-su was not entirely sure. Cats are territorial creatures. So maybe, at the very least, it will protect this area. Suddenly, a sharp, piercing cry cut through their conversation, making Chan-su spin around. The glass sphere had shattered. He sprinted toward the black cat. "Dathin, no, stop!" Chan-su yelled when he saw Dathin with Hamdali in its mouth. Hamdali is not food. He snatched the little hamster back. "You little monster. I introduced you two to be friends, not a meal." Dathin did not even care about losing its snack. It lazily scratched its ear, an attitude that left Chan-su completely exasperated. Not even listening, huh? His eyes flicked to Rohan, standing calmly off to the side. "Rohan, why are you just watching?" Rohan still had bits of apple stuck to the corners of his mouth, but his serious expression had not changed. "If anything happened, I would have stopped it," he said. Chan-su could not believe it. "Hamdali almost got eaten," he shouted. He bent down to check on the little hamster, which was crying pitifully. "Are you okay?" Su-jin hurried over, concern etched on her face. "Hamdali's not hurt anywhere, right? We will have to be careful until they get used to each other." Once everything seemed settled, Su-jin brought up a new topic. "By the way, Chan-su, I actually need to tell you something." Chan-su tilted his head in curiosity. "Again, if it is about the ostrich feathered tail, I already saw the message." Su-jin looked up at him. "A fraud claiming to be the owner of the Emperor Apple has appeared." Chan-su forced a smile. "Wow. What a strange scam. All over one apple." She continued, her expression serious. "Yes, but listen. He claims that because the apple carries the blessing of prosperity, he has the right to possess it as an apostle of prosperity." Chan-su stared at her, stunned. "Huh." She gestured toward a fake-looking apple. "He even brought an apple to prove he is an apostle of prosperity. But compared to the Emperor Apple, it is just a cheap knockoff." Su-jin exhaled. "He also brought a fake prosperity artifact contract, so we can completely dismiss his claim." Luckily. Seeing Chan-su remain silent, she looked up at him. Noticing his head bowed and his face clouded, Su-jin asked gently, "What is wrong?" Chan-su's hand clenched tightly. In his mind, he wondered, was there really another apostle besides him? He recalled the image of the trembling ginseng plant on the ground. Until now, it had never revealed itself. He also thought of the little ones, Hamdali and the others, playing all around him, and yet now someone was claiming ownership, boldly calling themselves prosperity. A huge question formed in his mind. Could this person have truly been an apostle from the start? Chan-su spoke seriously. "Ms. Hey Su-jin, we need to find that person." Seeing the determined expression on his face, she asked in curiosity, "Do you know him?" Hamdali gaped, sensing that he was about to reveal the truth. "No. Actually, it was more than that." Chan-su looked straight at her, his voice firm. "I am the true apostle of prosperity." Su-jin was stunned. Her shock made her exclaim, "What?" Chan-su's face darkened as he turned sharply away. "Have you heard the saying that with money, one can command even demons? Let us offer a reward for them." He picked up a bright red apple from the ground. "I will pay extra personally for that artifact." Chan-su held the apple, as large as his own head, alight with a sharp gaze aimed directly at her. "And if we capture him alive, I will reward 100 Emperor apples." Rohan, standing off to the side, hesitated slightly at the words. He furrowed his brows. 100 apples. The scene shifted to a dark, shadowy place. At the same time, somewhere in a narrow alley within the domain of the god of negation, a man in a black cloak walked forward, muttering to himself. "To persuade Rohan and his disciple, I will need a Tu-lin." He gritted his teeth in anger. An apostle of the god of negation without a Tu-lin is like fried ink with no ink, a red bean bun with no filling, sushi without fish, military hotpot without ham, a fish cake with no fish. He pictured the skeletons struggling to hold apples, their hands slipping, and sighed. "I could use a low-grade Tu-lin, But the fifth-generation ones will surely ruin the plan. The wooden door creaked open. Inside, an elderly man in the shop greeted him cheerfully. Well, look who is here, our impecunious friend. The hooded man frowned in annoyance. I am a customer, you know. He did not want to speak much, simply taking the piece of paper the shopkeeper placed on the table. Whatever. Hand it over, the shopkeeper said, handing over the item while asking, and the payment. The cloaked man gritted his teeth and handed over a large black gemstone. He will accept the material too, right? The shopkeeper grumbled, snatching the stone from him. You have to let go before I can take it. The man held on tightly, unwilling to release it. You know I had to pay extra to get this from that old man, right? Of course I know, the shopkeeper replied. He yelled back, I am selling it below market price, you know. After a tiring struggle, the shopkeeper finally yanked the stone from the man's hand. I am not senile yet, kid. The man slumped, staring at the ground. Give me a good price. The shopkeeper sighed, helpless. You think I can just dig up money like that? The man frowned sadly. This might be the last time we meet. We have known each other a long time. At least give me a little discount, right? Squinting one eye, the shopkeeper finally relented. You really know how to soften me up, you know that. He leaned forward, eyes gleaming with excitement. All right, you have gone broke searching for emperor apples, have not you? The man frowned, at a loss for words. You are not talking about that ridiculous scammer, are you? The shopkeeper raised a hand seriously, regarding him. Not entirely. Even some enlightened folks have been tricked. He smirked knowingly. Well, everyone knows that already. But here's some hot news. The man bristled with impatience but held back. Spit it out. The shopkeeper's voice made him freeze. There is a bounty on that scammer, 100 emperor apples if you catch him alive. Extra pay if you can retrieve the artifact. The man smirked, curling his lips into a sharp grin. Without another word, he spun on his heel and dashed off. Thanks for the reward, the shopkeeper called after him. If you are that grateful, remember to come back. He hurried down the empty street, feet pounding the pavement, not stopping for a moment. Finally, he found his target. A wild excitement lit his eyes as he broke into a sprint, face fierce with anticipation. My engagement gift. Not long after, in some miraculous way, the black-haired guy actually showed up in Chansu's territory with two of his buddies, earnestly begging to join his subordinates. Please accept me, I will work myself to the bone, he declared with a dead serious expression. Chansu, however, felt a bit overwhelmed by the whole situation. Is this some kind of joke, he wondered, then turned to ask Rohan, who was happily munching on an apple beside him, what am I supposed to do here? Before he could even finish his sentence, he noticed Rohan's indifferent face and let out a long sigh. Never mind. Just eat your apples. Across from them, the long-haired guy continued pleading, all for you, Chansu, I even caught this guy, please accept me. As if to emphasize his point, a skeletal soldier dragged a bound brown-haired man forward. Chansu did not need an explanation. He instantly recognized the captive as the imposter who had been selling emperor apples. That fast, he thought, genuinely surprised. Considering the travel restrictions and distance involved, it meant the man must have been captured almost immediately after the bounty of 100 emperor apples was announced. Everything happened too quickly, almost unnaturally quickly. It had to be the prosperity aura at work. Realizing that, Chansu's expression darkened slightly. He examined the scammer writhing on the ground. The guy did not look especially cunning, just an ordinary man. So how did he even manage to fool people? The scammer suddenly shrieked like a rabid dog. Hey, you bastard, hurry up and untie me. This is insubordination against your superior, do you hear me? Chansu's reply was cold enough to make the air drop a few degrees. I am not sure about your so-called persuasion skills, but you certainly know how to irritate people. The scammer, completely fearless or too stupid to realize he should be scared, kept grinning defiantly. And as if you would ever be able to kill me. That final jab seemed to hit Chansu's limit. Without hesitation, he pressed the razor-sharp edge of his sickle against the man's throat and growled, voice dripping with murderous intent, since you are from the Heavenly Monarch faction. Do you have any idea what I could do to you? I can see, right now, exactly where and how I should cut. Then, deciding he would scare the scammer enough, Chansu pulled the sickle away and ordered, before anything else, check his magical artifacts. The scammer panicked instantly, sweat pouring down his face. How dare you try to steal from your senior? Chansu's face twisted, turning almost purple with anger as killing intent poured out of him again. You keep running your mouth, but there is nothing senior-like about you at all. His long-haired companion, eager to take credit, immediately brought over a magical item, a wreath-like artifact, and handed it to Chansu. Here it is. Chansu looked down at the wreath in his hand, and the realization hit him immediately. So the aura did not come from the artifact. Which means that he... Up ahead, the imposter started barking again, his voice rising in a frantic snarl. Do not touch it, it is mine. Chansu could only exhale in exasperation at the nonsense coming from the man. Is this guy really my senior? No. It is exactly because someone like him is a senior that prosperity ended up in this mess. As the thought crossed his mind, his hand unconsciously curled into a tight fist out of sheer frustration. Forcing himself to stay composed, he set the flower crown on his own head and declared, a traitor who has never even visited the goddess. What gives you the right to talk about the Emperor's apple? The impostor shot back immediately, I am the true apostle of the Heavenly King, and I deserve the privileges that come with it. Chansu shook his head, dismissing the claim outright. You did not contribute a single thing. What gives you the right to demand anything? Hearing that, the impostor suddenly burst into loud, mocking laughter. And what about you? What have you done? You grew up on top of the foundation I built. Chansu's voice subtly shifted as he questioned him, so you are claiming everything was meant for you from the start. At that, the impostor nodded so vigorously he looked like a pecking bird, scrambling to claim every last drop of credit. That is right, the apples, the temple, even the monsters, everything exists because of me. Hearing that, Chansu felt his teeth grind together in silent fury. I was alone, completely lost and powerless, stranded in a desolate place. What does he know to spout such meaningless garbage? Stay calm. No matter how you look at it, none of this is something a single apostle could have done on their own. With that thought, he began pressing the impostor further. Stop talking nonsense. Who are you working with? The impostor's expression changed instantly. Panic flickered in his eyes as he stammered, What are you even talking about? Chansu narrowed his eyes and repeated, the one supporting you from behind the scenes. Every world shares the same goal, protecting their god and empowering them. But you abandoned your own god and ran away. You must have something, or someone, backing you. Cold sweat trickled down the brown-haired man's face as he tried to keep a straight face. Still, he forced his voice to rise in defiance. There is no such thing, I am just trying to survive, and then I ended up getting exiled to some remote wasteland. His voice grew faint when Chansu lifted his scythe. Calmly, Chansu said, I am listening to your final words. Goodbye. There was not a trace of humor on the protagonist's face, and that cold certainty shattered what remained of the impostor's nerve. Panicking, he blurted out everything before the blade came down. Wait, I did not have a choice, I am not like you. I am just an ordinary guy who has never even swung a scythe before. Chansu refused to indulge the man's pathetic rambling. Stop spewing useless nonsense and tell me who is behind you. I do not know. The impostor muttered weakly. Chansu raised his scythe again in warning, and the man nearly wet himself. I really do not know, they said they would give me enough money to live comfortably for the rest of my life, so I did what they told me, but I have not even seen a single coin, I was tricked too. His voice quivered with resentment, but Chansu had no sympathy to spare. So what you are saying is, you are completely useless. Only then did the brown-haired man seem to truly grasp the danger he was in. He collapsed into desperate pleading. Please, spare me. I swear I will never do anything like this again. It is too late. Chansu's reply was cold and final. With a swift motion, he struck the back of the man's neck with the handle of his scythe, knocking him out instantly. Seeing the man sprawled on the ground like a dead dog, Chansu could not help feeling a trace of dissatisfaction. I really want to cut his head off right now. But even if this is a game world, I still can't picture myself actually harming a real person with my own hands. The thought left him with a long, weary sigh. At that moment, a crimson notification screen suddenly appeared in the sky above him. The god of negation invites you to switch gods. If you become his apostle, you may kill that man. What do you think? A chill ran down Chansu's spine as he read it. The god of negation again. What is he, some kind of stalker? It is not like I am planning to kill the guy. He talks like there is some sort of barrier preventing me from doing it. Worried, Chansu turned to Rohan. Brother Rohan, what happens if you kill someone from your own faction? Rohan shook his head, clearly clueless. Chansu was not surprised. Right. You are not an apostle. Before he could figure out what to do next, the long-haired guy behind him spoke up. Hey, Chansu. Negative recovery is an exception, but normally it is taboo. If you do that, you will either get punished or straight up kicked out. Hearing that, the pieces finally clicked into place. Chansu glanced at the unconscious imposter on the ground and thought, so that is why he was acting so bold. If I really wanted to, I could force this captured apostle of negation to do the killing instead. Meanwhile, another message flashed across the sky. You possess the talent befitting an apostle of negation. Chansu rejected it without hesitation. It is not a fit for me. I am not interested. The god did not seem ready to give up. Switch gods, and you will gain incomparable power. Chansu scowled. No. The god made one last attempt. The city offers a 1-month free trial. That was the last straw. Chansu shouted in sheer frustration. I said I am not doing it. What kind of religion is this? If he can send messages out of nowhere like this, he must be tied to all of this somehow. Still fuming, he turned back toward the group. The long-haired man flinched under the killing intent in Chansu's eyes. But just as quickly, Chansu softened his expression and asked, You said you wanted to join me, right? The long-haired guy instantly perked up. Yes, that is right. I do not even need a reward. The protagonist gave a small nod. We will discuss employment conditions later. For now, here's your first task, keep an eye on the traitor. He gestured toward the unconscious imposter lying on the ground. The scene shifted to the ruined shrine. The goddess, who had just awoken from her slumber, suddenly gasped. That is Prosperity's divine relic. Standing before her, Chansu carried the flower crown and spoke calmly. Goddess, I am returning something that rightfully belongs to you. He extended the crown toward her. His gesture caught her completely off guard. Her lips parted in surprise. But a moment later, she gently pushed the crown back toward him and shook her head. Chansu smiled softly. I am fine. I have managed without it so far. As if responding to his words, the flower crown floated upward and settled perfectly atop the goddess's head. The moment it touched her, something extraordinary happened. The crystal embedded inside the bud burst into a blinding light, stunning everyone present. What is happening? Chansu cried out. Only when the light finally faded did he notice a small figure standing inside the drifting smoke. Who are you? He asked. Beside him, Doji was on the verge of tears. At long last. The goddess has regained her strength. As the figure became clear, Chansu stared in disbelief. No way. This is the goddess.